This podcast is part of the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network, the network for first responders and those who support them.
Disclaimer. All views expressed on What Makes Us Fire are solely those of the person or persons giving them. What Makes Us Fire does not represent or claim to represent any particular city or fire department, and therefore make the claim that all views and standpoints are affiliated with What Makes Us Fire and with What Makes Us Fire only. Any mention of certain fire departments or cities within the interviews are solely for informational and opinion-based dialogue. In short, if you have a problem with what's published, just say something about it and don't be a Richard. What is up, everybody? My name is Josh, the host of the What Makes Us Fire podcast, founder of the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit foundation. Thank you for joining us today on the show. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and put out a couple of our partners that we're working with here. First, I want to start off with Soldier Solutions. They are an apparel line that helps veterans get up off their feet, gets them integrated back into normal life, gets them out of their head, helps fight that 22 a day. Go check out soldiersolutions.com. They have some amazing apparel, some awesome designs. I highly suggest you go check them out. Also, as you heard at the beginning of the show, we are a part of the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network. I highly suggest you go check them out as well. Every podcast is hosted and or ran by a civil service member, be it military, police responder, firefighter, EMT, any and all above. Go check them out. Some amazing shows, some amazing podcasts. All right. Now that's all said and done, now that that's out of the way, my guest on the show today, not a civil servant. You know, in the terms that we talk about civil service being military, firefighter, first responder, but he is providing a civil service. He allows himself to be who he is, and while he's doing so, helps a lot of people. He shares his struggles on a day-to-day basis, and he's not shy about it, all in hopes of helping somebody else. His name, TR Jones. His handle on social media, TR_Jones7. And if you don't know who he is, you will. He's one of the very few farmers that we have left in America, a dairy farmer. And when I say very few, I mean very few. It's a dying industry. An industry we don't really think about too often. An industry that at one point had a suicide rate almost 4 times higher than that of civil service members. And that's something that needs to be talked about. That's something that needs to be shared. What's happening in America today when it comes to our economics, especially when it comes to our food, needs to be talked about. And the mental stress that it's putting on these men and women that are sacrificing their time, effort, bodies to provide for us. Listen to his story. Hear how he grew up. This man is a plethora of knowledge, and he has a heart of gold. Not to mention his voice. That voice, oh, you guys will hear what I mean. I'm also going to start this off with a little bit of a blooper. Got a Charlie horse kind of towards the end of the show. It's freaking hilarious. You're going to see it twice because I left it in as well. So you're going to see it twice. I just laughed. Dude's 6'6" and he was hurting. It was funny. And anyway, What Makes Us Fire family, please check out, please listen, and please help me welcome Mr. TR Jones, fighting for the future of farming. Oh God, what happened?
I just got a cramp. Got a Charlie horse. I pulled my leg back under my chair, man. It bit me. That's a funny face to make it.
The look on your face, man. What the hell was happening? There it is, recording in progress. I don't know if you heard it.
I heard.
Okay, so it's just some random ass chick's voice saying that there's a recording in progress. Meaning, now, DR, anything and everything you say can and will be used to help against you for anything.
All right, well, you have a good night, buddy, and I'll
that I see fit. Oh, man. T.R. Jones, brother, how are you? Thank you for coming on to the What Makes Us Fire podcast. Finally. Finally. What took you so long?
I think when you first messaged me, I messaged you back, and then there was a stall, and then I think you messaged me again, and then I didn't message back, and then got into busy season on the farm, got into doing shows with content violation, and just got busy. But
got busy? No, bro. The first time I ever met you, and the first time I was introduced to you, T.R. Jones, was in October of last year.
Yeah.
You did so we love slapped you because I was on live, and I was still getting used to, and somebody said, T.R. Jones, we got to love slap him. I was like, okay, if they're part of the family and they make you feel good, let's go give them a love slap. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, let's love slap What Makes Us Fire back. I had no idea the massive amount of people in the T.R. Jones family that just flooded my live. And I was like, what the hell is happening? And I got emotional. I was, bawling like a little baby, but it meant a lot to me. And so I went to you and I said, hey man, thanks for the love slap and everything else. I love what you're doing. I love what you're about. And I invited you on the podcast in October, November of last year.
Yeah, that's right before things got busy with first ride along was in November.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I do remember that.
It got crazy from there on out. I had my, I think right after that, I kind of had like my first ever viral TikTok video. And that kind of, all of a sudden I had all these things to respond to, all these messages to respond to. And, life just got busier.
Yeah, no shit, got busier. But I remember you saying, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then it's just been me being an annoying asshole between you and content violation trying to get you guys on the damn show. But yeah, that's how I was first introduced to you. And you've always been humble. And I got to give you credit for that because you haven't allowed and we're going to call it what it is. You haven't allowed the influence that you have gained on social media to go to your head in any way, shape, or form. Actually, none of y'all have. And it says something about you guys because we see a lot of people that get onto these social media things. They hit a couple of viral videos. All of a sudden, they're really big. And now you don't even recognize them from when they first started. You guys have kept true to who you guys are. And you definitely being one of them, you're probably one of the most humble of them all. And I really appreciate that about you in particular and really about the crew and everybody else. What I see is everybody is who they are on that social media platform. And aside from that, outside of that, I talk to Kingery every now and then. I had Scales on the show. I got to talk to Udi and everybody else, and they're exactly the same. You get who you get, and they have not allowed the popularity, the fame, the success, whatever you want to call it, it hasn't gone to your head, and you haven't forgotten about you could have just been, I'm too big for What Makes Us Fire podcast now. I'm going to continue doing my thing. You could have said that. Right? And
I'm not too big for anything.
Well, I'm just saying you could have, right? You could have, and you didn't. And I appreciate that. Being humble is a trait you don't see in a whole lot of people nowadays. And it's good to see it in good people. Well, of course, brother. We've been messaging back and forth throughout the year for the past, 8 months now, 6, 7 months.
Yeah.
Usually it's me being a pain in the ass trying to get you. Hey man.
I haven't been a pain in the ass at all. Don't
But
lie to
at the
people,
same,
you haven't been a pain in the ass.
but at the same time, I've tried to, I've seen what you've gotten going on with the farm. I like to jump into your lives, learn about what you do. You like to share about what you do. Your videos, your relationship videos, especially as of late, have been hitting kind of hard. And the reason being is I'm going through a divorce right now, but you were somebody that I met that, even though you're not a civil service member, I knew I wanted to talk to you. I knew I wanted to get your point of view on life, because it's rare that you meet somebody like yourself that can retain being humble, all the while continue to grow in quote unquote popularity. And I wanted to have you on the show for that. That, not to mention, you were the first person to love slap me, so you literally took my love slap virginity.
Well, I mean, TikTok is it's an interesting medium, but I think it's one of the important things to remember. No matter how big your page gets, or whether it's 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people, 10 million people, whatever. Without those people, you have no platform. Exactly. And if you ever forget that, then you're doing it for the wrong reason at that point. And I think another thing that probably keeps me pretty well grounded is I still go to work every single day, just like everybody else.
Yeah, no, I got you. Trust me, I get that 110%. And TR, you don't have to. Seriously, we know you go to work every day like everybody else. We see your videos. Okay, we see your content. We know you're working your ass off.
Apparently, I'm doing it the wrong way, because I know a lot of people that have similar status follies that are not going to work every day anymore. So apparently, I didn't do TikTok the right way.
Right? Like, I don't know, man. When What Makes Us Fire gets to that, I'm not going to say if. When What Makes Us Fire gets to as large of a family that you, Content Violation, have, I don't know if I could stop working.
I don't have any plans to stop working. I mean, I'm a doer. If I sit down and I sit too long, I just start looking for things to do. Not that I don't enjoy a good break or a good nap, but after a little bit, I start looking around for where can I get into now. I mean, as I sit here talking to you, we have the dairy farm, we have the creamery, we have an ag tourism business. We're trying to get set up to run Wood Talk this fall as a weekend music festival.
And we're going to get into all that. I know you're trying to do all your plugs now, but
Oh, no, I'm not even trying to plug. I'm trying to tell you how busy I stay.
No,
I got that going on. Got Content Violation going on the weekends. Just, and I sell seed corn on the side.
Dang, dude.
I've got hustles, man. I'm all over.
You are a little bit of a hustler. God dog, man.
So I don't know. My days generally start a little before 7, and I usually go back to bed sometime around midnight, 1 o'clock, something like that. But stay busy, stay doing things, and hope for the best.
Well, I apologize for keeping you up later.
No, you're not.
No, okay. Well, not right now. Who knows? This whole podcast can go for 4 hours. I'm kidding. It better fucking not go for 4 hours, TR. If you don't, if you keep talking, I'm going to tell you to shut up. By the way, bro, treat me like one of your brothers. Talk to me like one of your brothers, because I'm going to do the same for you. Right. If you need to tell me to shut up or, call me a dumbass, please, by all means do. I know it's all in good love and fun. But yeah, and that's how we met. And that's how we've kind of, I wouldn't say really gotten to know each other, because it really hasn't been a, what's up, TR? How you doing? What's up, Josh? How you doing? It's been more of an acquaintance, more of a, oh yeah, I haven't forgot. it wasn't like we were building any type of relationship or anything.
We got to do a dual live not long ago though.
Yeah, we did do a dual live not long ago. That is true. You were talking. You got to promote the Wood Talk and everything, and we got to talk. Beside that, we actually took time to talk and get to know each other a little bit better. Yeah. I guess what the point I'm getting at is, it's cool to have you here now on the podcast and allowing me to ask you questions and kind of get to know you better, because as I'm doing this is all new to me. And for everybody listening, they are going to feel that. They're going to hear that. They're going to hear like, hey, this is raw stuff. This isn't, I didn't send you any questions that I was going to ask. I didn't send you any type of syllabus that we're going to follow. I didn't, this is literally on the fly, us having a conversation, getting to know each other. And I love these kind of conversations because we truly get to know who you are. Nothing's planned. Nothing's, you get no prep for the questions that I'm about to ask you.
Yeah.
Which could be scary for the guests because they're like, I hope he doesn't fucking ask me this.
Yeah. So I've actually gotten to do about a dozen podcasts since I started on TikTok. And I don't think I've done any scripted ones. I had one sent me beer beforehand so that we could do beer tastings. So you really dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah, but, no shit, I dropped the ball on that one. Holy crap! Who the hell was? Do you remember who it was?
It was they had a farm podcast. It's called Farm for Profit, and Farm for Profit.
Thanks for making all the other podcasts look bad, you assholes.
Every once in a while, they do a Farm for Fun, and I was on the Farm for Fun, and they sent beer, and we did beer tastings.
All right, TR, I apologize, man. You know what? I'll send you a bottle of whiskey. How about that?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Do you drink whiskey?
Not often, but yeah, I mean, I'm actually a bourbon drinker. If I'm a drinker.
Okay, well, bourbon is a form of whiskey, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a good bourbon. Do you like Scotch?
My wife is a Scotch drinker. That's not.
You don't like Scotch. You don't like the peaty flavor?
I'll drink some every now and again. I guess I don't drink her. She's big into the very smoky ones.
Like the peaty, like they almost taste like leather when you drink it.
No, I mean they taste like ash. Like she likes that smoky flavor.
Oh,
yeah, she likes for them to be heavily smoked.
I'm gonna send you guys a bottle of Scotch that I think you guys will like. Okay. It's very peaty, very woody tasting. Okay. It's very, very good. Anyway, by the way, rabbit holes I'm good with. Anyway, but TR, yeah, that's how we got you on the show. Here we are now. We keep going off on these little rabbit trails. But I love the rabbit trails because we get to know you a little bit. We get little snippets of who you are through them all. Where I want to take this here is I want the audience to kind of get to know where you came from.
Okay.
And when I say where you came from, I don't mean don't take me from high school up to where you're. No. I want to know when baby TR was growing up to the point where his balls dropped down to his knees and his voice became freaking James Earl Jones to now. By the way, that was literally me kind of being extremely jealous of your fucking voice, bro. Like seriously, man.
Be a good podcast voice.
You do. Hey, when James Earl Jones, whenever he passes away, I hope it's not anytime soon. Or has he passed away? I don't think he has.
No, he hasn't passed away yet.
He hasn't passed away yet. You could be his replacement, bro.
For if they ever start making more Darth Vader movies, I'm in there.
Or another Lion King.
I got it. I mean, as far as me and where I'm from, I've been in the same place all my life. I mean, I was, I'm a third generation dairy farmer, but as far as how long my family's been on this plot of land, that goes back to the 1750s.
God.
Coincidentally, the question I always get in association with that age is, or sometimes it's a question, sometimes it's an accusation. Did my family own slaves? This is a rabbit hole we're going to go down. And no, we didn't. We don't have. We were more like what you call it? Homesteaders. Like people that pioneered west.
Right. Where they went out there, they claimed a plot of land. When the colonies were getting all set up, they said, "Hey, go out there, mark the territory you want, mark as much territory as you want. You have to take care of it, though."
I think this particular parcel or tract got deeded to a great whatever relative. He settled down, started a little homestead, made it through the years, eventually became a tobacco farm. Then my grandfather started the dairy, and this is just kind of, it's an educational point. Somebody asked me early on, the first time I told them that, I actually went back. I have an uncle who's big into ancestry. Went back, we kind of went through things to see if there was a possibility the family ever did own slaves at any point. And we never could find any record. But also, here's the
thing, Tier, when it comes to that stuff, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
When it comes to that stuff, if people cannot look past the fact that it is history and not today, even if it was, even if you did, if people can't look past the fact that it's history and not what goes on today, if they can't look past that, that's on them, man.
Oh, yeah. No, I just think it's interesting from a historical standpoint. So,
it is very interesting.
We checked into it, found out that we pretty much have been poor forever. Because we decided to be farmers.
I've been poor my entire life too. It's all right.
So that's how it passed down and came to be. And I had two older sisters, and we grew up on the farm. I got my first paycheck when I was 5 years old. I started feeding calves. I could reach the pedals on tractors. I was hauling silage wagons back and forth to fields. I started milking as soon as I could reach a cow's udder. And that was kind of farm life. And I played a lot of sports in high school. I got a chance to go to college to play football. Played football for about 3 weeks. Had my second and third knee surgeries at 19 years old. Decided maybe I should stop playing football. Little too much. I also played basketball a few years in high school. It wasn't that I wasn't good at it. I just didn't particularly like it. Probably because I didn't particularly like the high school coach. I liked to go to the gym and play. I just didn't like playing for the guy that coached the high school team. And played baseball, and I was actually a fairly good pitcher. I could have gone to college as a pitcher too, but I decided to go play football. Anyways, that ended. I took the year out of school. It was one of the lower points in my life, probably, just because I did enjoy the game a lot, and I don't know, I wasn't really sure what direction to go at that point, so I took a year out of school, tried to get my head about me, kind of decided that I would go on and get a degree in dairy science and come back to the farm and, give the farm a try. And that's what I did. I met my wife while I was in undergrad at Tech, but we didn't actually start dating until I graduated, and she was in graduate school. And I was back visiting a friend for a weekend and kind of bumped back into her. We went out one night, and I asked if I could come back and take her out again next weekend. So we did, and we did that for a few months, started dating, asked her to marry me after 9 months. It was one of these come to Jesus moments. She had gotten accepted to a doctorate program at Ohio State, and I'm in Virginia, and so she was going to be moving 10 hours away. Mm-hmm. And we've been dating for 9 months, and things were going really well, and I had the notion I wanted to marry her, and I wasn't sure how she was going to feel about that long distance of a relationship. We'd been doing a 3-hour distance, which wasn't bad. I mean, we could meet in the middle of an hour and a half drive and go to the movies or something, which wasn't terrible. But 10 hours is a little bit different. And I thought it over a little bit, and to me it was, I wasn't going to let her go. And so I asked her to marry me, and she decided she was sport, and which was good for me. I tell everybody I found somebody that was smarter than I am. She's better looking than I should probably be married to, and she pretty much outclasses me in every way. And the best thing I did was convince her to marry me. So I did something right at some point.
We are all our own best con men without even knowing it sometimes.
So we were going to be engaged for a little over a year, kind of be long distance apart, be engaged, and plan a wedding and try to have it the following October. That lasted about 2 weekends. She went away, and after about 2 weeks, she said, I think she was the one that said, why don't we just go ahead and get married this October, which at that time was like 2 months away. And I was like, man, I'm not opposed to it. She was like, I don't really want to spend a year, that far away from each other. And she said, I definitely don't want to be trying to long distance plan a wedding, from Ohio and Virginia and trying to plan things back and forth. And so we thought about it a little bit and said, we're getting married anyways. What's the difference if we do it 2 months from now or, 14 months from now? So we decided to go ahead and do it. So we were married 11 months after we had started dating. We got married, and a lot of people gave us very confused looks at the wedding. Thankfully, our first child didn't come till 2 years later, so we stopped getting the funny looks.
Oh yeah. I probably would have given you the same looks. I'd be like, he knocked her up. That's what happened.
That was. I'm pretty sure that was the feeling of half the people in attendance, but that was there was no baby 8 months later. We were happily married, living by ourselves, and we were very fortunate with children. When we decided we wanted to have them, didn't have any trouble getting pregnant and had both children, no problems. Brittany actually told me she wanted to have kids. She said, we're going to have kids. I want to have 2 of them, and I want them to be 2 years apart. I said, that's fine, whatever you want to do. And so we started trying to have our first one. She's, pregnant like 6 months later. That baby was due on February the 20th. She came on February the 10th. And, a little over a year later, she said, I don't want them to be 1 and 2 years apart. So let's try again. So we did. A few weeks later, she was pregnant. And that baby's due date was February the 21st, 2 years later. So only missed it by a day. But he came 7 days late, so he was February 27th. So they were 2 years and 17 days apart. But I thought I did pretty well as far as my side of it went.
That scares me. That story scares the crap out of me. The fact that you guys got that close to 2 years. Come on. Really? Wow.
Oddly enough, I think it was a leap year too. So I think if you factor all the things in correctly.
Oh my God.
I think the due dates were pretty close.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. If, I told you at the beginning, I am going through divorce and everything, but had it been planned that much for when my son was born, like I want to have my son or I want to have a kid at this point in time. So at this point in time, if my math works out correctly and I put the 2 over here and I made sure the X was right here and the Y was here and I equaled the X to the Z, impregnate me at this point in time and we'll be good. Yeah, that would freak me out, bro. I'm not going to lie to you. That would freak me out just a little bit.
We didn't plan it to that level. It was mostly a thing.
Really? 17 days and you guys didn't plan it to that level? It kind of sounds like you had like a little Atticus or something counting up the days or something.
No, our daughter was a little over a year old and she just knew she didn't want them to be too far apart in age. And so, she was fully recovered. We were financially stable and decided, well, if we want to have 2, let's go ahead and have the other one while they're not that far apart. But I joked with her about, because then early on she said, I want to have them 2 years apart, and I said, well, that's as good as I could do. But no, it just worked out that way. And like I said, we've been very fortunate to have 2 beautiful, healthy kids, and didn't have much trouble. We really didn't have any hiccups or bumps along the way. And I know that's not the case for a lot of people. So we're very fortunate. We're very blessed in that regard. So that's kind of kids, and then we've been here. We lived in a single wide trailer when we got married, and then we had our daughter, and the 3 of us lived there. And then when we had our son, Brittany said this isn't big enough for us anymore. It just had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, living room, bathroom, 2 bathrooms, had 2 bathrooms.
Oh, that's not bad for a single wife.
No, not at all. But there wasn't, like, the bedroom that our daughter stayed in was barely big enough for the crib and a dresser, so it wasn't any chance of like putting bunk beds in and doing the whole. Let's just keep figuring it out. So
now you said you're on the plot of land. Were you on the plot of land while your parents were still there as well?
Yeah, we were living on the farm in a single wife.
Okay.
And so, we started looking around at houses, trying to build a house, buy a house, doing any kind of thing with the house. Pretty much everything was entirely out of our price range, building, buying anything, just to, that was it was about 6 years ago. And I think the housing market was kind of, doing pretty well. And it's just something we couldn't really afford. And at the same time, we were thinking about building a creamery on the farm, and we were having trouble figuring out where to build it. And our neighbor, who owned this 140-ish, I think it's about 140-acre tract of land, had an old abandoned house on it. They, coincidentally, at the same time, were just looking to sell it. They basically had gotten to a point where they wanted to get rid of it. It was part of our original farmstead way back when. We were fortunate enough at the time to be able to purchase it back into the family. My wife and I took the house. Yeah, we slipped into our house with something we could afford. It is missing like anybody's house, it doesn't have I have a deck band on the back of my house that has no deck on it. It just, the money ran out and it still hadn't showed up. So, like any house, it's not quite finished yet, and it's got its honey-do list, but it's a place for us, and we're happy with it. And, and that's kind of where we settled. Built the creamery. Farm's been plugging along through a lot of kind of year after year hardships on the farm for the last several years. And we've just kind of been doing the best we can to buy, and I think that's the case for a lot of people every day.
Yeah, TR, you gave us a great summary of what your life has been like, and I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna take us back, and I'm gonna ask other questions and stuff. But before I do that, I do want to say thank you for sharing a little bit of how you came to where you're at now.
Yep.
I think that you have shared this kind of information before a little bit on your social media and everything else. You kind of give a little bit of your history and your family history, and definitely a lot of the farm history. But what I want to do is I want to dive in a little bit deeper, man. And the reason why I want to do that is, a lot of us will see someone like you, see someone that has a lot of, like I said, I'm going to call it what it is, some social media influence. You're an influencer, whether you want to believe it or not. And, we see these people and we see what they're doing, and we see their lives 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 60 seconds at a time. And we don't really get a full grasp of who they are. We're seeing just little bits and pieces. We're seeing some advice every now and then, but we're not really seeing where they came from, who they are.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us back. I'm going to go back to your childhood area, right? You said you had two older sisters. You grew up working on the farm. The farm life has literally been your life. But I'm more interested in what the family dynamic was. How was it growing up with your father and your mother? What kind of relationships did you have? How did it feel knowing that you're a 5-year-old kid working? Looking back at it now, most 5-year-old kids that aren't used to that kind of lifestyle. I mean, shit, you're telling me you 5 years old and you're getting a paycheck. Me, 5 years old, and I was worried about Ninja Turtles. It's a completely different aspect of life that I'm extremely interested in, and I want to know how did that affect you? How did that make you feel, man? Like, did it ever actually hit you, or was it just always the norm? And then when you did realize there was a difference, how did that make you feel? Like, holy shit, I could have been playing Ninja Turtles this whole time? Like, what the hell?
Yeah. No, so my older sisters are actually not significantly, but they're older than I am by several years. So my parents actually intended, I guess, to have two kids. My older sister is a little over 4 years older than I am. and the other one's just a little over 3 years older than I am. And they thought they were done, and then lo and behold, birth control is only 99% effective if you didn't know. And there's that other little percent of us that, slip in there and we come along anyways.
That explains the voice. Got it. I'm kidding. Kidding.
My mother had one of those like 5-year devices, or it was like a 3 or 5 year, and she was getting close to kind of it running out, and I guess it had gotten weak or whatever. And apparently, Dad had some good swimmers,
Well, here you are.
So here I was. So the two of them were pretty close growing up, and I was kind of like the other kid. Not that,
like the redheaded stepchild without being redheaded. Got it.
Yeah. So no, my middle sister used to tell me that I had a redheaded twin that was kept in the basement. So they had jokes they liked to play on me, and they were good sisters. I went through the like any sibling does, where your sisters pick on you, your brothers pick on you, or whatever. They enjoyed picking on me, and I remember my mother and father used to tell them, because I was always in the 99.9 percentile on growth in every characteristic, and they kept telling them to be careful, how much they picked on me, because it probably wasn't the last. And it was right around when I was 12 or so that I got a little bit bigger than both of them. And I remember my oldest sister, I can't remember exactly what they used to like to punch me in the side of the arm. They thought that was fun, punch me in the side of the arm. And she was doing something to me one night, and I gave her fair warning. I said, look, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to stop. I said, I've had enough. It's just, I'm not, I'm done with it. And she said, what you gonna do about it? What you gonna do about it? So I gave her fair warning. I said, look, you punch me again, I'm gonna put you on this floor, and I'm gonna hog tie you, and I'm gonna leave you here to think about it until you want to apologize about it. And she had never lost a fight to me, and so she went ahead and gave me one more of those good old arm punches. And so I hog tied her, and I left her on the floor, and I let her think about it until she was ready to say she was sorry. And that was the last time that either one of my sisters picked on me. And so, that was, but they were good sisters. I mean, they, when they got their driver's license, they dropped me off at school and always made sure I felt included in whatever they had going on. If they were going out to the movies or something, I would go with them. And so they were always good to me. My mother and father, my father, worked on the farm, and so we saw him a lot. My mother, she actually retired a few years ago. She was a doctor, an OBGYN, delivered babies. And so we saw her less because she had actually just gotten accepted to med school the day she found out. I think it was the day or the same week she found out she was pregnant with me. And so
TR already screwing up plans.
Yeah, so she had to decline her acceptance to med school, which never happens, and then reapplied and got in again a year later. And then she started med school after I'd been born. And so, med school being a pretty long and lengthy process with long nights and long hours, I didn't see her a whole lot, really, all the way up until kindergarten. She was busy traveling back and forth in school, got home late, studied, got up early, left, was commuting an hour to med school and back. So didn't see her a lot. So it was really my dad that kind of took care of us, me and my sisters, because she usually got home kind of right at bedtime. Sometimes she would put us to bed. Sometimes, she got held up a little bit, would get home after we gone to bed. So yeah, it was our dad that he picked us up from the bus. We stayed with his mother right there on the farm, my grandma. That was the other unique thing about being a farm kid. My father's parents lived, literally a quarter mile from us in the same driveway. And so we spent a lot of time with them as well, especially if he was working late. We went to grandma's house, and my grandma is still alive. She just had her 92nd birthday, but she's just one of those gems of human being. Just a real true Southern belle. Grew up in the church, a praise Jesus woman, and just really wants to feed everybody that comes.
All grandmas do. All grandmas
always had always had, some kind of fresh baked cookie or some kind of snack, made sure we had something to eat and drink and we could play out on the farm. So we spent a lot of time with her too. And then, when my dad was done working, he'd pick us up and take us home. And his favorite thing to make us, and we all very distinctly remember this. He used to fry us homemade fried chicken, and he was good at it. It was cheap. My mom was in med school, paid their mortgage, paid, on a farmer's income. So we ate a lot of fried chicken. His favorite vegetable was lima beans, because it's pretty starchy for a vegetable, and mashed potatoes. And I mean, we must have ate that 4 out of 7 nights a week. That was his go-to meal. We all like the fried chicken. We all love mashed potatoes, but my oldest sister, she still won't eat any lima beans to this day because she just said she got enough of them.
4 nights out of the week. Yeah, I might be a little bit. I will never get tired of fried chicken, but lima beans, maybe.
Yeah, but it was one of those affordable meal deals, and they were trying to get my mom through med school. Had a lot of expenses and trying to live on a low income. So, but they made it work. They figured it out, and as far as parents and role models, just great parents and great role models in the way they work together to make each other's goals happen, and get her through med school and kind of start building the life that they wanted to have together. Shoot, I lost track. Oh, you asked me about, I lost track what the question was. You asked me about being 5 and working on the farm.
Yeah, like I guess, I mean, come on. I'm going to kind of interject here.
Yeah.
It sounds like you had a pretty damn good childhood, too.
It was good.
You had a loving family that surrounded you.
Yeah.
Sisters that, picked on you like older siblings do.
Yeah.
I picked on my younger siblings. You had parents that were working their asses off to provide. You had grandparents that were there to help pick up the slack. Yep. And, sometimes some kids will hear stories about how they kind of resent their parents a little bit, that they were always dropped off at the grandparents' house and they feel like they were never gotten it. But there was a good balance, it sounds like, from your story. I don't hear anything, any type of resentment, because you understand that the balance was there, right? Like, you understood that your dad was working. You understood that your mom was trying to further her career, to provide for the family, and so she can follow her dreams at the same time taking care of her family. Your dad was working his ass off. Your grandparents were there to help kind of balance everything out. And I mean, it sounds like a pretty damn good childhood. It doesn't sound like you had a whole lot that, I mean, if that's your norm, there's not a whole lot of turmoil or anything that kind of goes on with any of that,
No, we were very blessed to have a very good childhood. One of the things I got to appreciate with age was, as a kid, and like I said, I didn't see my mom a whole lot, really up until kindergarten, was she actually kind of there on the weekends and stuff, kind of started being around. And, when you're 5, you don't really, I guess you don't really realize these things anyway, but going up through high school, even when she was employed and worked a job, she worked an hour away. She had call nights. She worked for a small practice, and she was gone a lot. And, it's when you're young, you don't always particularly understand why one parent seems to kind of always be there and why one doesn't, is gone. And, she was the one that worked far from home. And she, with her call schedule, was 3 partners and 7 nights a week. So at least 2 in, let's call it a third, because it is what it is. In a 30-day month, 10 nights, she slept at the hospital because that was her call night. And so instead of having an hour commute, she stayed down at the hospital. So we didn't see her at all, for that 2 or 3 day stretch or whatever. My dad was kind of the polar opposite as far as being like involved in our lives. I mean, he was my Little League baseball coach, he was my flag football coach. I can recall the entire time I played sports in high school, he missed 1 game because he had to go to something. It was a Wednesday night football game that he missed. But he just really didn't miss things, He was always there, always had a video camera, and he was video recording all the sporting events, my sisters, me, any of us, for our mom, because, she wasn't able to make it to him. And so if I ever had resentment, it was through my teenage years, but then as you get older in the perspective of life, the boat I sit in right now, I have 2 kids, but there's also the staunch realization that I have to work to provide for the things that kids want. So some perspective comes with age, but did I ever hold any kind of grudge against her? Not really. I think we were probably just always too busy to hold grudges, because we had our own jobs on the farm. And so that kind of going back and rolling into your other question, I didn't know I started working at 5 until I graduated from college. And so when you graduate from college,
your dad did a good job of making it seem like this is normal.
Yeah. When you graduate from college, the Social Security Administration realized that you graduated, you've entered into the job world, and they send you a letter that basically says, congratulations on, graduating, and here's how Social Security works, and here's, you'll continue to work for the next 40 years of your life, and then you'll apply for Social Security. But they also list on the back page, this is what you've already paid into Social Security, and this is how much you paid per year. I was born in 1985, and I started paying into Social Security in 1990. And I was like, why was I paying Social Security in 1990? And the realization hit. That's because it's when I got my first paycheck. It takes Social Security out of your paycheck. But, when we were, as far as realizing we were working, we thought we were, we knew we were feeding baby calves, I guess, because we were toting buckets around and filling up grain and mixing milk. And I knew I was doing it, but I guess I just thought it was part of normal life. If we were riding hay wagons, putting hay bales on them, we thought we were hanging out with the other kids riding hay wagons, putting hay bales on them as part of community fun day or something. We didn't know we were working. Like driving tractors and stuff. I mean, what kid doesn't want to drive tractors? So, I was excited to be on the tractors and driving them. My first tractor driving job, we had a pull-type chopper that had these silage wagons, and the wagons, we had 5 and only 4 ever worked because there was always one broken down. Just always was one broken down. And so, but my job was to take the wagon from the harvest store to the field, but I wasn't even allowed to get off the tractor. Whoever was cutting the silage had to get off and unhook my wagon and hook me up to the other one. And then I drove it back to the farm. And when I got back, there would be a different tractor sitting there with an empty wagon, and I'd get off and get on that one, and I'd take it to the field. But they really made sure that, and I didn't drive on the road. These were fields on the farm. Mm-hmm. They made sure that we didn't really have the potential to really get hurt because we weren't off around the equipment while it was moving. We were on the seat and we were driving it, and, they, like a lot of old farm equipment, high, low ranges with, 1, 2, 3, 4 shifters. We were allowed to drive in like high 1 so that we made it back and forth in some kind of time, but, we weren't allowed to go fast. So, those are early childhood memories. And I probably started driving. I started out with feeding the calves because you really just couldn't get hurt feeding calves. And I probably didn't start driving the tractors till I was maybe 6 or 7. Had a little bit more sense, I guess, than a 5-year-old. And then, by the time I was 10, I was milking cows because I could reach them. Growing up on a farm is a different lifestyle. Like everybody, what you know. And I don't think I ever really thought that I was different than anybody else. There's, when you go to kindergarten, elementary school, there's no after school activities that you're missing out on or anything. You go to school and you come home, and, then you get on the tractor and drive silage wagons for a few hours before dinner. And I just assumed that's what everybody was doing, I guess. And I probably didn't realize I was different from the other kids in school until I got to the 5th grade. Because then I could play baseball and football. I'm sorry, that's the wrong grade. 7th grade. So in 7th grade, I could play football, baseball, and had to stay after school. And that was kind of the first realization that, the question I asked, was it okay for me to play? Because I wouldn't be home after school. And my dad grew up a lot different than me with his father. His father was my grandpa. He was kind of go to school and you come home and you work. That was that was the generation. And I can remember my dad telling me a story about when he wanted to play baseball. He bought the forms home, gave them to his dad, and his dad said, we don't have time for this. You got to come home. You got to work. And he said he remember going to bed that night very disappointed. And when he woke up the next morning, the forms were filled out sitting by the door. And his mom, my grandmother, said, you go to those tryouts this afternoon. And she had basically overnight, she had taken grandpa and told him that, these are children and they're going to have the fun that they want to have. And grandpa did the right thing and he agreed with her, before she
I think
him over here with a frying pan.
Yeah, I think any man would do the right thing at that point.
Yeah.
Like you better do the right thing at that point.
Well, like I said, my grandmother is just one of those real sweet Southern belles. But if you ever manage to get her to kind of put her foot down, you better go with whatever it is she was saying because it was serious.
You explained it as soon as you called her a Southern belle, like we know.
Yeah,
we know.
So it was important to him, kind of because he could remember that from his childhood. It was important for him and for me and my sisters to not feel that way about things. So he really wanted us to participate in after school activities and do all the things we wanted to do and not feel like we had to be at home and on the farm. And then, like I said, he never missed games. He really made that a priority with us to, really put work aside and make sure that we got to do the things we want to do and then also be there to support us while we were doing it. I lost where I was headed.
You're good, man. You answered the question. I get that a lot. A lot of people be like, I answered the question and I was going somewhere with this. And I'm like, no, man, you already answered the question. I get it.
We were talking about at what point I ever realized that I was any different than anybody else. And that was probably the first time that I ever thought, the other kids don't work. Because that wasn't something that crossed their mind. But.
Right. And you didn't. Looking back on it, did you ever kind of go back and go like, wow, I could have been doing this, I could have been doing that, or you were just kind of like, it is what it is. It was what it was.
Because the time that we worked was the time that we were home anyways.
Right.
We weren't out. And it really probably in hindsight, it kept us out of trouble and from doing things we probably shouldn't have been doing anyways.
Right. Well, going through high school and starting your sports after school and everything else. And you even mentioned that you had a chance to go to college for football or something, I think is what you said. Yeah. When you're starting to grow up and you're getting older, you're still living on the farm. I'm sure you're still helping out as much as you can. When you start getting into this part of your life where you're now becoming more independent and starting to make these choices now for yourself, when did you start realizing that you might want to make a choice to get away from that farm life? Because it sounds like you kind of went through that phase a little bit. You went through a little bit of a phase of I want to see what else is out there other than what I've been doing.
Well, really, I don't know that I necessarily did. The biggest thing I had was I had the size to play college sports. I was, when I graduated high school, I was 6'6", 240 pounds. I could throw a football 50 yards standing on my feet, flat footed. And if I stepped into it, really tried, I could throw it 55, And that was good for a high school age kid. Really still, I can't throw a football 20 yards now, for being totally honest. Don't practice it like I used to anymore, and so it got me recognized enough to where I could go out and have a chance to play a little bit of college ball. And I got unlucky in the sense that the high school I played in was a very traditional run heavy. We're going to run the ball. If we run 50 plays in a game, we're going to run it 45 and we're going to throw it 5 times. And so I didn't manage to get a lot of exposure through high school, but I did manage to break every record that our high school had in any kind of passing category. And like I said, my parents made sure I went to a lot of summer camps, and that was how I got my exposure. I showed up at camps. Everybody was like, who the hell is this kid when I got there? And then by the time I was leaving, it was, hey, we'll see you, this fall. We'll come watch a game or two. And so, that's cool for any, 17, 18-year-old kid. And but didn't, just kind of struck out on where I was playing. And so I went to play at a small private school. The head coach came down and was the one that recruited me. And, he ran a really fantastic style offense that I had never been close to. It was pass heavy, 5 receivers on the field, throw the football 40 times a game. He really sold me on, he was going to give me the opportunity to kind of play the way I'd always wanted to, which was great. I got 3 weeks into fall camp, and I was doing a stretching exercise one day and during practice, and then, squatted down to do the stretch. And then when I went to stand back up, it just didn't happen. And I was like, oh man. And so, I sat down, waved the trainer over and talked to him for a little bit. And, he got him down to the field house, and I called my parents. I went home and, went up to see an
orthopedic,
not a surgeon, just went to orthopedic, like on call the next day. And they decided I had torn a meniscus, which wasn't a big deal. 6-week fix, you'll be right as rain. I'd actually had my first meniscus surgery when I was in high school, so I was fairly familiar with it. It wasn't a big deal. And when I had that surgery, I woke up in the recovery room. And that was when they let me know I'd actually, I didn't have an ACL anymore. I had torn it at some point and had just kind of worn it away. My MCL was damaged, and that I was going to need a total kind of knee rebuild, repair. They'd had to cut out a lot of my meniscus. It didn't go very well. It was pretty well torn. At 19, I was basically bone on bone with a pretty much a total knee overhaul, with a year of recovery sitting in front of me. And their advice was just to, don't give up contact sports. And so that was, I don't know that I had any dreams of really going beyond college to play them, but you never know where a road's going to lead. And so that's what I said. If it was one of the slower times in my life, it kind of felt like the door had closed, that I really wanted to see where it went. You know what I mean?
Right. And, how did that make you feel, man? How did that affect you? How did that affect you on your day to day? Because, being a 19-year-old kid and not really knowing where you want to go, but knowing that there's this opportunity or a possible opportunity, and it's kind of stripped away from you without even knowing. I could only imagine how that would affect not only your psyche, but your personality, your outlook on life.
I just kind of shut down afterwards. The surgery itself and the first few weeks afterwards, things like that don't settle in till a while later.
Mm-hmm.
I had the surgery, actually took my family had already planned a vacation to go down to the Caribbean. And so I got to recover for 1 week floating around in the Caribbean Ocean, just kind of relaxing. So that was decent. And, but once I got back, the initial 4-week rest period was over, and it was back in the spring semester at college. The athletic department there was happy to handle my physical therapy, which was, it was kind of a kudos to them, because at that point they knew I wasn't going to play any more sports for them. But they basically said, look, this really sucks, so we're going to go ahead and do your physical therapy so you don't have to find a therapist and stuff. And that's a very interesting relationship. And for as long as I live, I will never forget my trainer's name was Andy. I've told anybody that's ever asked me about him, it's one of the most interesting relationships I ever had with a person. I simultaneously have significant respect and love in my heart for him, especially while I was going through therapy, because we used to meet down at the gym at 5 in the morning. He wasn't just my physical therapist. He was my support therapist. Because, like you said, the things you're giving up, the things you realize you're not going to do again, that's the person you lean on. So simultaneously, just one of the people that just really worked his way into being a big part of my life. At the same time, still today, if I pass him on the street, 15% of me is going to want to punch him as hard as I physically can. for the amount of pain he put me through. And that's what makes that relationship so unique. You know, he was the guy that, I remember the worst exercise was sitting on a table and you sit with your leg flat and they start bending it to try to get that range of motion back. And he would push my knee up till I was squeezing the table and I was telling him, stop, that's as far as we can go. And he'd say, okay. He'd say, that's pretty good for today. And then he never rested for the same amount of time. He would wait till my hands finally kind of relaxed just a little bit on the table. And then he would jar it one more time and get that extra quarter inch or whatever, half inch to make that range of motion come back. And I mean, it would instantly send you into instant just, on the pain scale, you would kind of work your way down from a 6 back down to a 2. And all of a sudden he was sending you right back to a 9, and just like I said, if I pass him on the street, there's that percent that's always going to be like, you remember me?
So he was good at his job, is what you're saying.
He was excellent at his job, and he made sure I made the best recovery I could make, given all the factors. And he knew, the doctor that operated on me knew, they all knew what was down the road for me being 19 with, bone arthritis, and they did everything they could to give me as good of recovery as they could give me. And I still go about every 5 years for knee checkups, and my last checkup, my left knee is somewhere around the equivalent of about a 75-year-old person. So
ouch.
It's they all knew what was going to happen, and they gave me things to live by. I'm one of those people you'll never see squat down. I'm not going to do that. That's you can go ahead and count the months that's going to take away.
Mm-hmm.
And just knowing how to sit and rest and all those things. So
after this whole experience, finally realizing that, all right, well, this part of my life is, we'll call it what it is. That part of your life is done. When did what did you start thinking about doing after that? Was it like, all right, I guess it's back to the farm for me, or was it like, let me look at what I can do?
No, I took a year off from school, and I guess, being young and naive and feeling like you can always come back from anything and hearing comeback stories, and you always want to be that guy that makes the comeback, right, or that girl, or whatever. And I really never gave up on the notion that I would play again until I had graduated college. I mean, every fall that rolled around, I kind of got half in the mindset of, you know what, I'm just going to walk on and play football this year, and I'm just going to play for 1 year. It's gonna knock some years off before I have to have knee replacement surgery, but I'm gonna do it for 1 year. I'm gonna go ahead and live that dream a little bit. But knowing the right thing to do and never actually doing it was different. But as far as ever really, knowing that I wasn't going to again, it wasn't until I graduated college that I really ultimately gave up on ever playing competitively again. I didn't watch from the time I had knee surgery till the time I graduated college. I didn't watch a football game. I couldn't. I'd watch a few minutes and then I'd just turn it off. My dad was a big Virginia Tech football fan, and even when I was in school at Tech, he'd come up to the games and ask me if I wanted to go. And I just always managed to come up with some excuse why I couldn't go that particular weekend. Or I think I went to 1 or 2 games with him, and sat through them. But I remember just hating it the whole time. Even once my wife and I got married, I still really have only started watching football again in the last maybe 2 or 3 years. It's just one of those things that I didn't want to watch it because it was, it just set off memories that I didn't really want to go back through. But I think the thing that really helped that go away was I ultimately just reached an age where it was an impossibility, you know what I mean? And so knowing that it was an impossibility made it something I could go back to. To answer your question, I took a year off from school. It was kind of, that plan went to pot. What am I going to do now? Spent time working on the farm. I'd always enjoyed working on the farm. I was never like, man, this sucks. I got to get out of here as fast as I can. I was never that kid. My middle sister, she was that one. She worked the day she left the farm. She was like, I'm never setting foot on that again. And oddly enough, she still comes back and visits a lot, and really doesn't even live that far away, and still likes to come and help out on the farm some. So I don't know. I took a year off from school and, just kind of muddled through a year. I guess following in the family footsteps seemed as logical as anything to do. I don't know that I ever gave it a whole lot of thought. I applied to go into dairy science at Virginia Tech and went and got my 4-year degree and came back home and started working.
It wasn't even really a question. It was more of I know this, so I might as well go do this.
Yeah. And I mean, really and truly, I didn't have to go to college to do what I do now, because I grew up doing what I do now. If I hadn't grown up on it, it might have been different. But it helped to get the business classes for sure, as far as running business and planning business. And as far as any kind of practical application classes, I probably could have taught them, you know what I mean? And most, those where I got my really good grades. I got good grades in business. I'm going to tell you where I got my bad grades was in microbiology. I was that guy that was like, man, I've been working on the farm all my life and I have never used this,
Right.
And so I didn't apply myself to that too well and basically just passed that class. Those were my C classes. I just, I did what I had to so that I could get through them.
You know what the difference between an A+ doctor and a C+ doctor is?
How much money they charge?
Nothing. They're both doctors.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
So, I mean, the same goes for any profession, really. The difference between a firefighter that graduated top of his class and a firefighter that just barely passed his class.
Right.
Still a firefighter, So it definitely helps maybe a little bit when you get to the practical application and looking for jobs and stuff. But I mean, you were already set. You already knew where you were going to go.
Yeah.
When you got through all that part of your life and you're starting the work on the farm, when did the realization of being a farmer, being that person that actually takes care of the farm, that deals with the business aspect of it now, not necessarily just the practicals and the doings and the taking care ofs, but now the land payments, the money aspect, the legal aspects and all that stuff. When did you start realizing that, holy shit, this is a little bit more than I thought what I was getting into, and how the hell did my father manage this?
No, we grew up involved in all applicable parts of the farm. So my grandmother actually managed what you would consider the books and the finances. Really up until my father was probably in his mid-50s. They would have kind of these impromptu, once or twice a week, just little business meetings between the two of them, how are things going financially and what can we afford to do on the farm. So kind of managed it that way. And then once my sister and I were kind of the first two back, decided we wanted to work on the farm, my oldest sister and I. And then a few years after that, my sister actually married her first husband who worked on the farm for a while. And things didn't work out between them. They divorced. He left the farm, of course. It was just the three of us, again, my father, my sister, and me, plus the other employees of the farm. And then I got married, and of course my wife came into it. And the way we kind of ran it then, still run it up to this day, is it's never really been any individual person's had to make every decision, to make things go. Now, my father went through a very long period where he was the decision maker. We grew into so many businesses horizontally, laterally, however you want to look at it. We got the farm, then we opened the creamery, we opened the ag tourism division. There's so many different parts that have to be managed and make all the businesses mesh and mingle well, but it really has just what you would consider a management team at this point, because somebody kind of oversees every aspect of everything. And then we work together on trying to, decide what's the best course of action to each avenue. My oldest sister, she runs the creamery, so she does the ins and outs, days ins and outs over there. My wife manages the herd on the farm, but she also manages the ag tourism business. So she basically makes any decisions revolving around the herd or anybody that's coming to tour onto the farm and what they're going to see, and takes care of hiring tour guides and anything in that respect. And then my father and I, we take care of what's left as far as general maintenance on the farm and getting the crops planted and cows fed and all those kind of things. Not a lot of days, but some days we get pulled over to the creamery too if they've got some maintenance issues and things that they need help with. So we cross paths a lot in every aspect of all the businesses here, but at the same time, we kind of have our own individual places that we manage and try to move things forward too. I didn't really title myself. If I had a title, it would be just as a farm manager. But I kind of come up with ideas and general directions I think the farm should hit in, and then I just run them by everybody, and we try to make the best decision with input from everyone that we can make. But it's no different in how we run the creamery or ag tourism business either. Coley comes up with ideas for the creamery, and
It almost sounds like you guys have like more of like a board than an actual person that's in charge.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
You're going to have to forgive me, man, and I appreciate you kind of giving a little bit of a background as to how your farm is run, because, I'm sure there's a bunch of other farms that have that sole proprietor, the sole owner that makes all the big decisions, that says, you do this, you do that. Yeah. And I'm assuming yours might be a little bit of an anomaly in that not a lot of farms are run that way, and the way you all run yours.
The on farm processing facility makes up a very, very small portion of farms in America. It is the direction that small farms have started to head because we can't compete on the economy of scale that big farms can. They can just, because they have so many cows, mm-hmm. or so many acres, they can. Let's make this make sense. If you own 100 cows, you still have to own a tractor and a mixed wagon to feed those cows, right? Mm-hmm. So you spread your payment out over 100 cows. If you own 1,000 cows, you still have to have a tractor and a mixed wagon to feed those cows. But now you spread your payment out over 1,000 cows. And so you get to an economy of scale where you can just manage to do things cheaper. But not everybody has the capability, land-wise or whatever, to just expand and keep getting bigger. And that's where we were. And so for us, the answer was to carry our product all the way to retail and cut out all the middlemen that make money on it. And so that's the avenue we went down. But yes, so it has set up a totally different management style. If it was just the family farm, at this point, my father probably would have retired, and it would just be me and my wife. We would make decisions between the two of us. She would run the herd, and I would run the farm. But that's not what we said.
And that's going to take me a little bit into something that we talked about prior to you coming onto the show. Something we actually talked about on the live a little bit that I wanted to dive into. You and I had a small conversation or short conversation as to where farming is today. And that's all farming, not necessarily just the dairy, but all farming. That in the times we are today, it's been getting pretty fucking rough. Let's be honest. It's been getting pretty damn tough.
Yeah.
When it comes to finances, and when it comes to the people that run these farms and having them just be able to put food on the table for their family after the day's done. You and I talked a little bit about the suicide rate that actually went up by quite a large percentage due to the economy and what it's done to the farming industry. I want to dive into that a little bit, and I appreciate you giving us a big, backstory as to who you are, how you came up, the trials you went through as a young teenager, as a young man, and up into where you are now. But now I want to kind of get into the thick of it. I want to get into the serious conversation that is how it's affecting you on a human level. Not just a business owner, not just a farm manager, but as TR, a man that's working on a farm that's struggling.
Yep.
And it is that you're struggling, and you have not been shy about sharing that. You shared it on your social media. You shared your concerns as to how you're going to even survive. Thank God for some of the family members and followers you have for an idea that they came up with that is taking off, which is amazing. But prior to that happening, there was a trial and tribulation time period that you and your family had to go through. And I kind of want you to dive into that a little bit with us. And the reason why I want you to do this, TR, if you don't mind if you don't mind sharing, is that no matter what aspect and what part of life that you have, whether you're a dairy farmer, whether you're a farmer, whether you're a firefighter, whether you're just a lawyer, a waiter, it doesn't matter. There's points in our lives that we go through very rough times, and those rough times sometimes get the better of us.
Yeah.
You have found a way to start overcoming it. I'm not going to say you have.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to say you have, but you found an avenue, and you have found ideas you haven't given up. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Right. You're continuing the fight.
Yes.
Take us through that. Take us when you started realizing shit, something needs to be done. Take us through the mental health aspect the effect it had on you, the effect it had on your family, and how and what kind of trials that you guys had to go through.
Yeah. So just, it's to make this all make sense, you're going to have to actually back up about 4 or 5, let's say 6 years, and kind of follow farming through the last, actually, to be totally honest, we need to back up about 30 years. And we need to look at what kind of policy was set for farming in America. And so 30, actually probably closer to 40 years ago now, policy began to be set in America for cheap food. That's what government decided was most important to keep citizens happy when it came to agriculture, was make sure food was cheap. So in America, we spend roughly 10% of our income on our groceries. Now, when you compare that to any other developed nation, let's take anywhere in Europe, they spend roughly 35% of their income on groceries. When you go into developing countries, that number goes up to like 80% of their income goes into feeding themselves. So, you need to understand that, because the policy set forth is basically anything we can do to make sure food stays as cheap as possible is what the policy level is. And then when we get into the early 2000s, we started to get big into environmental policy. Let's call it the green movement, started right around 2000. We need to understand the impacts we're making on Earth, the environment. We need to look at being sustainable for, generations, hundreds of years from now. We can't use up all the Earth's resources and basically burn it out, or we're gonna kill out humanity.
Right, and that makes sense. It makes sense to a degree. To a degree, it makes sense.
It has perfect merit. But what it did on an economic sense to farmers was to put more pressure on them, because now it became, not only do we want you to make food cheap as possible, we also want you to do it using these particular practices, which were all very new. And when you start implementing new practices, they require new equipment and new things have new thing price tags. So it began to be this stress of, keep everything cheap, but we need you to spend money to keep it cheap and protect the environment, which, while it has like I said, it's necessary and it has its merits, it wasn't a whole lot of focus around, okay, well, we need to change the way we do things. Let's make sure the resources are available to do those things. To some degree, they have been, soil, water, conservation, Department of Environmental Quality. There are programs you can participate in where you can get some government financing to make some transitions, make more sustainable practices. But it's still a stress we placed on to farmers and basically said, this is kind of your problem. Here's the minimal resources, figure it out, make this work, and continue to do what you do and do it cheap. And so what we've done for the farm response for the last 30 years has been, we just talked about economies of scale. Keep getting bigger. And the bigger you get, the cheaper you can do something. And that's been the philosophy in America over the last 35 years. And it's really catapulted here in the last 15. You know, we've seen the advent of, used to be that a big farm was 2,000 cows, 3,000 cows was, you know, humongous. We have dairies in the states now that have 60,000 cows on them. You know, we've seen the advent of what we would call commercial farming. You know, it's really farming on such a scale that it's no longer what you would consider the family farm anymore. You know, and we like to boast around that 98% of farms are still family owned, but nobody really wants to talk about what percent of farms are still family operated. And I guarantee you that number is not at 98%. And is it significant? No, not necessarily. But when you're asking to make sure things are done a certain way, you know, especially when you get into animal agriculture, I can tell you right now, the family person that is invested in the lifeblood of that farm is going to do a job differently than somebody that's just there collecting a paycheck. So that's the only difference I would discern between family owned and family operated. And not to throw any large farms under the bus, not at all. In today's world, they're pivotal to being able to feed this country. But the picture I'm trying to paint here is that we've continued to place stress on to farms to get bigger while also continuing to do it cheaper, while also implementing environmental practices. And it's kind of built into this thing now where nowhere along the lines did we ever look at the policy and say, we need to make sure that people actually want to do this job. We need to make this job profitable. We need to make sure this job is sustainable for not just the economy as far as cheap food, not just for the environment as far as reducing emissions and runoffs, but we need to make sure the person that's doing it can feed their own family and can sustain themselves, and that it's a decent lifestyle. And that has never been part of policy, and still to this day doesn't exist to be part of policy. And so what we've done is we haven't, as a nation, we haven't interested the next generation. Average age of the farmer in America right now is just a tick over 60 years old, you know, and people should be concerned about that.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
If you were to tell me that the average age of the firefighter in what part of Texas you from?
Southeast Houston area.
All right. If you were to tell me that the average age of the firefighter in Houston, Texas was 60 years old, guarantee the city of Houston would be doing something to try to interest some young people in coming out and training and learning into practice, because we need firefighters next week too, right? Or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. And we haven't set that up as a country for that next generation to come along. And so that's one of the challenges that we're facing as farming moves forward. But when you get into the last 5 years, we actually have a picture outside of our parlor where we do tours, and you see this line. This is my pencil. This is kind of what like dairy pricing did and commodity pricing did for about 30 years, from the 60s up to the 90s. And then it kind of started having these peaks and downs. It became much less of a line and started having ups and downs. And then when you get into the last, like 2000 to 2015, you have these extreme ups with these extreme downs. And then when you hit 2015, you have this extreme down, and it's never come back up. And then it was supposed to kind of start to come back up right around the beginning of 2019. You know, the economy was balancing out. There was supposed to be a wave coming up, and then COVID set in, and COVID plummeted pretty much all the commodity markets, because all of a sudden world trade shut down. You know, we couldn't send commodities overseas. Milk became useless because we weren't in schools. We couldn't go out to eat. The restaurant industry quit buying milk and cheese, and you know that accounted for so much. And so it took an already ailing industry and then took away its market, and it just really dropped the bottom out of prices everywhere. And so we took these people that have been struggling through the last several years because of all these you know,
fluctuations.
Basically the way farming set up through policy and the fluctuations, and we put another stress on them. And a lot of them were kind of already at their, their end, and they wanted to figure out how to sell their farms, but couldn't, and really just kind of got to a place where people didn't know what to do. And so the conversation you and I had was when I talked about, right around June of 2019, right after COVID had started, and all of a sudden in the news, this is how we got affected in dairy. All of a sudden in the news, they're dumping milk all over the country because there's no cheese plants aren't taking milk. And then people are getting in the mail that their milk contract's going to be dropped because Dean Foods can't find a home for it. And it's just kind of all these really, all of a sudden people's incomes were being cut off, and they weren't going to have a market for the milk. They couldn't sell the cows because nobody wanted cows because there was no market for milk. And so it was this terrible trap people got laid into. And so June 2019, I remember we got our milk check, and it had the suicide prevention hotline number in it, along with about a 2-page letter from the co-op that basically just said, we don't know what the future is. We can't guarantee a market for the milk. We wish everybody the best of luck, and here's the suicide prevention hotline number. Please, do the best you can. And it was peculiar at the time because everybody was like, these things are happening, but like it's going to stabilize. The denial of early COVID, this thing will stabilize. We're not going to worry about this too much. And then probably 2-3 months went by, and all of a sudden, people I'd gone to college with, somebody's uncle killed himself. Another guy's, when the father was like a cousin that killed himself. All of a sudden you start hearing all these stories coming off the dairy farm where all these farmers, and it wasn't even that they killed themselves, yes, but had died in a farm accident. So the other thing farmers are incredibly clever about is, the way life insurance policies work. If you commit suicide, a lot of them it foregoes the benefits. And you're talking about very well business-minded people we talked about my family and early life and growing up. Most farms are very heavily family-centered, especially with emphasis on the males in the family, making sure that everyone is cared for, that everyone has everything they need, and doing anything to make sure their family will eat tonight and, will get through the next day. And so all of a sudden there's this sudden uptick in farm accidents, but then you start hearing about people who actually are walking in the milking parlor and hanging themselves, and all of a sudden it's everywhere. And there was kind of this explosion of just dairy farmers that felt like they had nowhere to turn, nowhere to go, wanted to make sure their family was taken care of, and the only way they saw that would happen was through life insurance policies. Or if they killed themselves, and at least the farm would be forced off to auction and sold off, and hopefully the family would be cared for or whatever. And so I got a little bit interested in it when I started TikTok, and I started doing some research, just wanted to kind of know what suicide rates among dairy farmers were. This was about 4 or 5 months after we had started getting those letters, and started, like I said, a month or two, we kind of started hearing stories, and then some stories, especially from people I knew and gone to college with. And I got interested in it. And, we talked about this. Everybody knows about the 22 a day. And, we got to get that number down to 0, because our troops that are going out and fighting for our freedoms, that's not acceptable that they're paying with their own lives when they get back. So I got very interested in what was happening with dairy farmers and what it looked like statistically. I figured out, kind of did research into suicide rates, and I think like the average American citizen, it's like a 0.01% chance that they'll commit suicide. I think it's actually 0.001. So you don't have this great chance of the everyday Joe committing suicide, and it does happen. Of course, when you apply that number to 368 million people in the U.S., 0.001 is still a couple of people a day. It's right around 3 people a day that commit suicide. When you apply that number to veterans, it's 0.003, I think. Then when, of course, you apply that to population, that comes out to your 22 a day. So it's, it's 3 times higher than what the average Joe was doing. And that's why we have so much emphasis on it. When I got to researching suicide rates in dairy farmers, Tremors, it was actually very hard to find real good information on it because there's not a whole lot of us left. Less than 30,000, or right around 30,000 dairies left in America now. So it's not like there's this big pool of people to draw from. And of course, then you have to know that was the person's occupation when researching statistics. But some of the co-ops have been tracking, and they knew that roughly they had a number per 1,000 people. And so what I did was I applied that number to per people per 368 million, because that's what I was basing everything else off of. And that figure came out to be 0.03%, which was 10 times higher than even what veterans were at, which was a scary number to me. Because I thought, sure, I did my math wrong. I did something wrong here. I didn't come up with the right number. And so I did it. I remember I sat in my kids have a chalkboard wall in their playroom, and I had my chalk stick, and I was doing all the math on that wall. And I kept going back and looking at it, and I did it like 4 times. And I kept getting the same number, and I just thought, there's no way that can be right. And nobody was really putting out data on it either. Because like I said, you don't worry about such a small pool of people. But yeah, that was pretty much what I found, and it was for my own information. But you can't even find that today if you Google it.
Man, the fact that you took the time to even do that kind of begs the question. And you can be honest, or you can not. And I think what the question's going to be. Is did you ever consider that would be a route, or was it, or I mean, I can't imagine. I can't be put in your shoes, and I can't even imagine what it would be like to know that your livelihood, the thing you went to school for, the occupation that you have dedicated your life to, is now no longer a sustainable thing for you and your family. And you taking the time to figure out these numbers begs the question:
where was my mental health?
Yeah, where was your mind at? Where was your mind at? And I guess back to the original question is, when you started doing all this, what kind of effect did that have on you and your family? Like, more importantly, what did it have on you? Yeah. I want to know how it affected you, and did you ever get to that point? And if not, what was it that kind of kept you out of it?
Yeah. So on a personal note, then, if we go back and examine what happened here over the last 5 years, we had gotten to the point where we were going to get out of the dairy business, or we had to do something we knew that there was no future left as the 200 cow family farm. And so that's where we sat down. We decided to build the creamery. Father and my sister went and visited a lot of places, got a good feel for the business model. We had a third party come out and do a feasibility study. Everything looked good. It looked like it was a good time to do it. The numbers looked good. It looked like a good way to kind of, get the farm onto several generations, because it's essentially a market where you can actually control the price for a product, which is unheard of for farmers. And so we decided to do it. And unfortunately, the day after we bottled our very first jug of milk, we have a picture on the wall. We're all so excited. It's taken 18 months to build this thing, 2 years to plan it out, to, finally get to this one little bottle of milk, right? And the next day we had a storm that evening, and it blew down our main housing barn on our farm. It was housed 120 of our 200 cow milking herd. And so we lost that barn. To just dive on a side note rabbit hole into insurance on farms, the logical thing is, if the storm blows your house down, you have insurance for it, right? When you go to insure a farm, you have to insure the farm by every single building on the farm, one building at a time. You insure equipment by one piece of equipment at a time. You can't just buy a policy that covers the farm. And so you can actually quite literally insure yourself out of a paycheck, because if you insure everything for everything it's worth, you can't afford to pay your premium every month, and you lose your livelihood. So, and that's another state of farming in America right now. We're forced to go through and pick things that are essential, and make sure they're insured all the way out, and then take other buildings and say, if this building, worst case scenario, ceases to be for a storm or lightning or burns down or whatever, can I survive without it? And so main housing barn is a good building to have, but it's not like milking parlor. And so the housing barns don't carry full insurance coverage. So we ultimately lost about a $400,000 barn that was carrying like $50,000 of insurance. And so that was a huge loss there, and couldn't afford to replace it. And it was a devastating blow, kind of. But we've got the creamery. If we hadn't just built the creamery, if we'd been a year earlier than that happened, we'd have sold the cows. We'd got out the dairy business. But we were committed at that point because we had this creamery with this big loan payment need to be paid. So we just kind of had to keep on trucking. And we got through that fall, and the creamery in its opening year actually had a really good year, and it kind of gave us this bit of hope that things could go well, and maybe we lost this barn, but in a year or two we'll probably be able to replace it, and we'll get the tides turned and things will be better. And that was December of 2018, and so here we go, December, January, February, March. It's incredibly difficult to sell ice cream. So those 3 months of the creamery, we went a little bit backwards, but we knew summer was coming around the bend again, and we were getting excited. So March, kind of like the last weekend in March, it warmed up a little bit. It was a really nice Saturday, and this huge crowd was out at the creamery, and it looked like, all right, we're going to start clearing this hump, and things are going to get better. And second week of April, governor issued mandatory closing of all non-essential businesses in Virginia, COVID 2019. We managed to stay open as a drive-through because we served milk, or you could buy gallons of milk, and it was essential, considered a grocery store. We adapted and tried to get this hustle going the best we could, and we took a walk-in creamery and turned it into a drive-through. And I mean, we had to employ twice the number of people. It was 10 times harder to fill orders, just everything that could go wrong necessarily as far as trying to serve right here was going wrong. But we were making it work. We were doing what we could to make it work. But the bigger blow there was the fact that our business was always to grow into grocery stores and retailers, whether it be a mom and pop shop or like a Kroger or a Publix or whatever. And, the mom and pop restaurants started closing because they were non-essential, and all the ice cream shops that we had contracted with, they closed because they're not essential. And grocery stores stopped taking new vendors because the people that would normally fill those jobs to get new vendors in the store were deemed non-essential. And so all of a sudden we had this multi-million-dollar creamery with nowhere to try to grow milk sales. As much as the business plans and feasibility studies had said it was the right time and the market was there, all of a sudden the market was gone because of COVID. It wasn't that the people didn't still exist. It wasn't that the store didn't still exist. It was that the opportunity no longer existed. And so that was kind of the second big blow within 8 months. It was within a year of when our barn fell down. So, but it's just the first month in. Of course, nobody knew what COVID was going to be like, and that went on for the next 18 months. And that became life at the creamery and the farm. And to say we struggled through those 18 months is just a colossal understatement. I mean, colossal understatement. And even up till today, I mean, Virginia reopened at the beginning of July, but COVID killed those mom and pop restaurants. It killed those mom and pop ice cream shops. They're not ever going to come back. Some did, some of them did, but we lost a lot of customers because they lost their business.
DR, brother, I'm sorry for interrupting, man. I really am. You're dancing around the question.
Oh no, I'm getting there. I haven't gotten to the bad stuff yet. I just haven't.
That wasn't the bad stuff. That wasn't the bad stuff.
That's not the end of it. That's not the end of it.
I get. We understand the backstory, man. We trust me. I get it. Like,
right.
I can't even imagine. And I want to hear all these things because we need to understand the kind of impact that our socioeconomics and our produce economics, anything really, when it comes to farming and how that affects us.
Right.
Brother, I'm sorry for being.
No, you're fine.
Maybe I'm being a little bit.
No. You want to know. You want to know why I started researching suicide statistics.
Yeah, and I understand that.
All right, we're going to come back to this point, though.
All right, let's do it. I just, I don't want to. I hope you don't find it as me being rude or anything like that. It's just
no. You're fine. You're fine.
I'm really, really interested on how.
Yeah.
To put it in lamest terms, TR, how the hell did you not end up offing yourself going through all the shit?
How did I not become a statistic?
Correct.
It was never an option for me because really and truly, my kids and my wife, I value them more than I value anything on earth. And me not being here for them is not an option for me, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense.
As much as I would.
But the fact that you even had to think that it wasn't an option, meaning you did think about it.
I never thought about it, and I don't want to get into other people's story here, but I know other people in my family did. Okay. And so that's what got me interested into the statistic. And we got into therapy and took care of making sure that was not, or was dealt with, basically. That
it wasn't going to become an option.
Right.
For said individuals.
For me, I never needed the therapy, and I've never really, even to this day, the thought of it has never crossed my mind that I would, because I just enjoy seeing my kids so much every day. I don't want to think about them having to grow up without me. And maybe the other thing that happened all the way in that area, every once in a while you get these, throughout life, you kind of get the moments you need to keep your head right. My son was right around a year old, and this was kind of really before any of these things started. I went to the hospital for a week because, I was working a lot on the farm. We had some shuffling around of employees, and some people were missing. I was covering a lot of milkings. I was working a lot of weekends, and was doing a lot of hours. And the general idea was, I started getting these basically night tremors. It was so strange because my wife could watch it happen. I would get home from work. It'd be like, it'd be 8:00, and I would sit down and I would tell her, man, I'd start shaking a little bit. And I was like, man, I'm so cold. And so she'd give me a blanket, and she would take my temperature. My temperature would be down like 97 degrees, which was a little strange. And then I'd sit under that blanket for about an hour, and then that thing would be off. And I was sweating, and the fans would be on. And then all of a sudden, my temperature would be up like 101, 102 degrees. It would happen like 2 nights a week. And so, I was dismissing it as it's just some weird flu, crap, junk, whatever went on. That went on for about 6 weeks before she made me actually go to an ER. And they admitted me and kept me in the hospital for a week. And there was a night in the hospital, and I remember the daytime during the doctors, they basically come in and said, look, we don't know what you got. They said, we don't want to admit this to you. We don't like to admit it to people at all because, everybody thinks we live in the 21st century here. We should know what you have. They said there's billions of bacteria on Earth. Half of them want to kill you. You could have any one of them. There's not a test for everything, They said, we're going to give you the best antibiotics we got. They put me on two extraordinarily strong broad spectrum antibiotics and said, we're going to see what happens over the next few days. And that was my diagnosis. That was the honest diagnosis. And, I remember that night, man, my eyes, for whatever reason, I got up to go pee. I pretty much passed out on the way to the bathroom, hit the emergency nurse thing. I got myself crawled back in bed. And I remember laying there and I remember praying. Because at home, I had a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, a wife I'd been married to for a few years. Not to mention, father, mother, grandmother, everybody around me. And I just remember laying in that bed thinking, I can't even remember saying that. I said, God, just get me through the night. I said, if nothing else, at least get me till tomorrow so I can see them all one more time. I just want one more time. And I did. I got through that night. I woke up the next day, both eyes red, except for my pupil. I apparently burst blood vessels in my brain and eyes were bursting. And, I looked like crap, but I made it through that night, made it through the next night. but it gave me a real appreciation, I think, at that moment, the value of life. You know what I mean? Because my true diagnosis was, we're giving you what we got and we're hoping for the best. You know? Maybe that spurred into me the actual value of life and being here for them and wanting to get back home. 3 days later, the antibiotics had done what they do, and I was discharged and got to come back home. And really and honestly, it fully took me probably 3 months to actually really kind of get back to where I felt normal again. Even to the point today, a few years later, I even still don't feel. I've never been as healthy as the day I went into that hospital as when I came out. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
It
sounds like,
not that I'm unhealthy in any way, but it did give me that appreciation for life that probably kept me from ever considering any type of suicide attempt. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's that one more day feeling. I will do anything for one more day.
What kind of stress did it put on you and your family going through all this? Was there? We hear these stories when there's look. I've done the statistics. I've done the reading and everything else. Divorce.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about divorce. The top reason for divorce is not because differences. It's actually financial issues. Financial issues is the number one reason for divorce. Believe it or not. You know what's second behind that? Second behind that's infidelity. So when you do the research, money actually causes more divorce rate is a higher. It causes more of divorces than infidelity.
Right.
So when you hear that there's these type of struggles going on in a family, you wonder, well, how did they make it through?
It's been stressful for us. When business is going well and you're not trying to figure out how to save money at every single turn, you're allowed to make some mistakes. But when you're talking about years of running business where you're cutting every single cost and every single mistake costs you, it gets very stressful. And of course, we talked about our board earlier. Essentially, it's 5 different people sitting in there with 5 different opinions on how to get through the next few months. To answer that question in total honesty, it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, but we can still sit in the room together as we sit. We got, as a matter of fact, we got a business meeting with everybody tomorrow. It's going to be right here in my house tomorrow. We'll sit down and talk about, the problems we sit with as we sit right now and what we can do to start fixing them.
What about your personal, between you and your wife?
Personal, me and Brittany. I guess to answer this question, I answer in 2 parts. It's been extraordinarily hard on Brittany because it's the stress of, it's just what you said. It's the worry of money. How are we going to take the kids on vacation this year? We're not able to save into retirement. Things that she wants to be doing that we're not able to do. I mean, things that I want to do too that we're just, we're not able to. So it's living with that. But at the same time, as far as us and the 2 of us together, the thing I think we do in our relationship that if I could advise other people in theirs is we talk about it whether we want to talk about it or not. We don't do the thing where what's wrong and you say I'm fine. We don't do that. We don't have the I'm fine in our relationship. You can say I don't want to talk about it right now. I'll talk to you about it tomorrow. I just want to get through it today. That's okay. But we don't ever settle for the I'm fine. We go ahead and have that conversation. We talk it out and try to find some common ground and move forward from there. But
well, man, that's huge. And yeah. I think that goes for any relationship, not just obviously a certain significant other, but communication. Really, communication is key to, I think, a lot of people say, well, it's love. Well, it's this. Well, it's that. Well, no. You can't have love without communication. You can't have compromise without communication. You can't have anything without communication, without letting that person know where you're at and them letting know where you're at and being responsive, not reactive, but responsive to that communication. And the reason why I bring it up to you and the reason why I asked you about you and Brittany specifically is because you have been known and you have on your social media to kind of give advice on relationships. Yeah. And I don't know what prompted you to do that. And to be honest, I really don't care because the advice you're giving, I think, is very, very, very beneficial. And especially coming from somebody that has made it work and that is making it work. I'm sure you're like me. You're not going to say you have everything figured out because I'm sure you guys still have your turmoil. You still have your arguments. You still, you have all those things.
Life is a work in progress.
Exactly. However, you have found the key to make sure that progress doesn't get held up. And that is the communication that you guys have. And I was interested to see how this time that we're living in, the turmoil that you guys have to go through, especially with finances, and especially with running a farm, being part of that. I wanted to ask you how that affected you in your personal life because, there's people in the world right now that are having financial issues. They might not be farmers. They might, they might be firefighters. They might be business owners. They might be, it doesn't matter. The fact is there's financial issues, but yet you and your wife and your family have found a way to overcome those things and still stay a unit. To fight as one, so to speak. And that's a huge thing. And I wanted to ask you because if you don't learn to become a millionaire from somebody that only makes $100,000 a year. You learn to become a millionaire by doing what the millionaire did.
That's right.
Right? So you learn from people that are right. But you learn from people that have successful relationships. Because they have a successful relationship. You don't learn about a successful relationship from people that have had divorces 5 or 6 times or, you know what I mean? So, and that's why I wanted to ask. Where are you guys kind of going from here? Obviously, just a few weeks ago, you, oh man, am I boring you that much? Golly, it's just getting late, huh?
You're in good shape.
All right.
It's got to be like 10:30.
It's, I'm not going to tell you what time it is your time because if it's 10:30, you think it's 10:35. I'm going to go ahead and keep you longer. It's a little bit later than that. It's 11. It's 11. Anyway, yeah.
Oh, I'm not worried about it.
I want to kind of push forward in all this, and I really do appreciate you giving as much information as you can on this little short period of time that we have because people really do need to understand the hardships that not only you, but anybody that's in this farming industry are going through. Not when it just comes to the whole business aspect, but I mean, fuck the mental health aspect of all this, the process that it's taking, the toll that it's taking on the families, the toll that it's taking on the providers for those families and what they are doing and what they have done to try to overcome these things. These are huge discussions that need to have. These are discussions that need to be not only talked about on a podcast, but these are discussions that need to be taken up to our government levels and be like, hey, this shit's happening. We are taking care of everybody else. Yo, what are we supposed to do here? And I appreciate you a lot for sharing those stories. That's a beautiful pup. Sorry, squirrel moment. I want to push forward a little bit in kind of asking you what route are you guys going now? Anybody that follows you and anybody that has seen some of your stories kind of knows what you guys are doing now with the subscription and everything else. But, and I think that was a fucking brilliant idea. And whoever it was that came up with it, good on them. I forget her name.
It's on TikTok. She's Art Grammy, but her name is Wilma.
Yeah. What an amazing idea. And it's starting to take off, which is pretty damn awesome. And all in efforts to help you and your family and the farm.
The beauty of the program is it helps the community. The purchase of the gallon is it goes straight to food shelter. So it's when somebody needs it. And then it provides business for the creamery, which provides jobs to the local community. And ultimately it purchases that milk from the farm, which provides better income to the farm, which also provides jobs within this community. So it's really just community, taking care of community. But the interesting thing about that program in particular is it's people not even in this particular community that want to participate as well. So it's like I said, it's she came up with something that's just wonderful. It's beautiful.
It is. And I wanted to take this into what you got going on and how you kind of became the face of your farm. The lack of a better term, figurehead. The celebrity, so to speak. You know what, TR, just accept it, bro. Just accept it. You have become an influencer on social media, all the while sharing knowledge that not a lot of us have, and you know it's appreciated, and it's very much appreciated, whether you believe it or not, whether you're gonna accept it or not. You know, too fucking bad, bro. You are. You are. And
we're going to agree to disagree on this one.
You can agree to disagree, but I can make a post on TikTok right now and they would all agree with me. I can damn near guarantee you would be the one. Nobody would agree with you on your end. Yeah. You've become somebody that has shared knowledge, that has shown love and support to other people, that even when you're going through your own struggles, still find the time to help others. And the program you have going on now with the subscription and to trying to help, you know, your farm stay afloat and the dairy stay afloat, and the creamery and everything else, it says something about who you are, Tiara, because not anybody is going to get that kind of support. Yep. All right. Let's be honest. Some other dairy farmer out there who is not TR Jones, who is not part of the content violation crew, who is not part of the ride along crew, who has not kind of made a bit of his name for himself on social media, they are not going to get that kind of support that you're getting. Yep. And I know I'm, you know, speaking to the choir here. I know you feel blessed by it.
Oh yeah.
You've made it abundantly clear that you feel blessed by it.
Yeah.
What possessed you to even start this whole social media thing? Was it just for informational purposes? Was it?
No, it was. So some of the abstracts of farming is it's because the hours are so long and you know we're far away from any kind of what you would consider community activity type situations. There's just not a lot of opportunity to meet people and make friends. And so, you know, I was watching TikTok. I wasn't posting, but I could see that people were starting to do meetups, you know, they're starting to hang out with friends. And I thought, man, maybe I could make some friends on TikTok. You know, that'd be a great way to make friends. But at the same time, it's just the mountain of stresses we've talked about. I honestly needed something going that I could do and not be stressed out by it. You know what I mean? Let's make some silly videos and post them on the internet. And, you know, maybe the algorithm matches me into people that, you know, that I can ultimately be friends with. And that was what really started it. And I mean, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of my post log, and I may have moved the video off the privates by now, you know, but like the third post I ever put up, I'm pretty sure it was like, hey, I don't have any friends. If you don't have any friends, let's be friends, you know? That was it. I mean, that was kind of why I started. And, but I mean, the day I started, did I ever think I'd be sitting where I am 10 months later? Oh God, no, you know, I tell my wife still like once a week, I'm like, can you believe, you know, and every week the number is different, but you know, this week's conversation is, can you believe 955,000 people follow me on TikTok? And she's like, no, I don't.
No, I have no idea why you are that interesting, TR. You know what? I am going to say this, and I've already said it before. I'm jealous of your fucking voice. Maybe that's it. Or you know what? Maybe it's Red. Maybe it's Red.
I think it's Red.
I tell you what, those videos with Red, when you give that life advice between you and Red, I think Red has some amazing life advice that I think a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
Even though it's coming from a cow, you make the the tough ideas, tough conversations, you put a little bit of humor to it, and and you make it palatable in a way that not a lot of people can, and that's huge, man. I can't believe you just started it to make friends, bro. Like that actually, if you would have said that and not had the family that you have on your social media, if you said, "Oh yeah, I started TikTok to make friends," I would have been. I'm sad for you. I mean, let's be honest, right? Like,
but no,
I would have been like, "Oh, poor TR."
No, I continue to make them, and I mean, you've talked a little bit about the ride along content violation. I mean, look at the places I get to go now, and the amount of people I get to meet. But the thing that makes it so cool for me is it's genuinely where it stemmed from, the desire to go out and meet people and make friends. And then, here I sit a few months later and I've got them and I continue to make them. And I mean, today's acquaintance is Matt. Tonight's friend is yesterday's acquaintance is Matt, but tonight's friend is Matt.
Mm-hmm.
I sit down and get to talk to people and get to know them. And those opportunities wouldn't be available to me without having taken that first step. But I think the thing you asked me earlier, what got me into doing marriage advice and just talking about life in general, I think what got me to make my first marriage post, my friends around me that were married but didn't have kids, they would call me and they would ask me about things going on in their marriage. Well, what they would do is they would call me and they would start small talking. And, the few little friends I had, they would kind of be beating around the bush on something, to the point where I'd ultimately just be like, look, I know you didn't just call me to ask me what the weather was like today. If I was going camping this weekend or whatever. So, what did you really call me for? Well, it turned out I've got, my wife and I have been married, I've been married a little longer than most of my married friends. And we're kind of going through this. Did you ever go through this? And kind of the realization that it wasn't just the realization that we go through things in marriage. Everybody knows marriages take work going through. But why there was such a stigma and a difficulty associated around with calling up somebody you consider to be your friend and just starting the conversation with, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm doing good. All right, great. I wanted to call you because I'm dealing with this problem and you're my friend. Can I get some advice from you? Like, why do we have to beat so far around the bush just to admit that we're struggling with something? Especially when it comes to relationships. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you don't go through the occasional bump struggle in your relationship, especially with your spouse, you're probably not doing it right. You're definitely not pushing any type of boundary or getting out of any comfort zones to continue to grow and expand that relationship, which is all dating is.
That's all it is.
Everything you do on a date is expanding
learning
comfort zones with each other.
Right, you're learning.
If you stop doing that and you can't even talk about those comfort zones anymore, and then you don't even feel like you can talk to other people about them, that's a problem. And so I think having that, and then it was coupled with a post that I just kind of done about, it was kind of one of those generic posts about, I was struggling with something one day and I talked about it a little bit. And then I said, if you're struggling with something, just leave it in the comment section. Maybe somebody can leave you some advice on, how to overcome it. And I just thought that would be a nice way for that day to kind of help some people get through some things. And oh my God, the amount of people that got in there and talked about their relationships and how difficult they were, and then number of people going through divorces. And so that's what got me interested in talking about it. And I'm lucky enough in my marriage that I have a very good communication channel with my wife. And then I realized that there are a lot of people who don't. And if I could break down a barrier that says, it's okay to talk about these things that people consider to be my marriage is failing because people will sit unhappy with each other and then turn around and eventually say, my marriage has failed. We don't talk anymore. But way back early on, if you could have had a simple conversation that said, we're on edge with each other and we're not talking, why don't I go ahead and have that conversation? And so just offering that advice out into the world that basically says, it's okay to struggle along in your relationship sometimes. It shouldn't be a permanent struggle, right? It shouldn't be nothing but a struggle. That probably just means you didn't mesh well.
Right.
And, maybe you're better off without each other. If you don't ever work through the small bumps, the small struggles, and if you don't feel like you can talk to them, especially with your friends who have already experienced things like that, and I should be able to talk to you about it in a non-judgmental way. I should be able to ask for advice and not be judged in any kind of judgmental way. Because if we really break it down and are honest, most relationships have the same basic problems. I mean, it's not like we have really unique problems. There's 7 billion of us on the earth. There's, 3 billion relationships going at this point in time, or whatever billion of relationships are going on. We're bound to have some overlapping problems. And I think just removing the idea that I can't express that I'm struggling in my marriage right now because that would be a failure, or I'm struggling with whatever relationship I'm in because that's a failure. You're not failing. You're just struggling.
You're struggling. Isn't it funny, everybody listening, isn't it funny when he's saying this, how we associate struggle with failure?
Yeah.
And then we associate failure with the stigma of not being able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that goes for mental health. That goes for
Yeah.
relationships. For whatever reason, whenever there's some type of failure in our head or an idea of a failure,
Yeah. You don't want to tell anybody.
we don't want to tell anybody about it. Why? Because we don't want to be looked at as a failure. Well, no, struggle is struggle. But like TR said, you start the conversation. That's how you overcome it. And that's for any type of struggle, especially mental health.
Going back to mental health, and I know that's one of the things you stress on your podcast. We talked about that a little bit. Mental health is no different. I mean, it's exactly what you just said. It's the stigma of I don't want to let people know that I am struggling because they will see me as a failure, or they will see me as incompetent, or they will see me as not able to handle my emotions, or whatever it is. If there's a reason that I make TikToks where I go sit on my porch and I say, this is what I'm struggling with today, it's really just a vent. And that's what it is for me. It's a sit down and it's a vent and it's get it out. And I don't expect any particular resolution from that vent. What I expect out of that video is to show other people that it is okay to sit down and just say, these are the things I'm struggling with, and today I'm losing, and today I'm not okay. But then you may see me back on TikTok 3 days later, and I'm back, I'm back to myself, and I'm moving on. And I've overcome that struggle, and I'm moving on. The thing I don't like that happens on, and I'm not trying to pick anybody out in particular, I don't like to see something that portrays that you can be happy all the time.
No.
That's not
oh
life.
my God.
That's
Look,
not life.
ladies and
And I
gentlemen.
don't want the page to be me doing nothing but being happy. I want people to see me sit down and say, I'm losing today.
Right.
So
and
that they
you
can
know,
sit down and say that.
exactly. That's the point. Look, hey, if you know anybody that's literally happy all the damn time, stay away from them. They're fucking crazy.
Yes.
There's something going on in their head. They're insane.
Yes.
Life is full of up and downs.
Yep.
Nobody goes through life with all ups. Nobody goes through life with all downs.
Yes.
It's what we focus on that we tend to allow to dictate how we feel. And a lot of the times when it's the down, we forget about the good and we focus on the down and we allow that to kind of dictate how we feel about ourselves, right? That's why we have mental health problems. That's why we have relationship problems, because we focus on the down times and we don't remember the up times, because we forget and we don't realize that it's just a phase. It's just a struggle. We can work through it. That's why, I know you've seen this a lot, and a lot of the saying, like, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I kept hearing that and I was like, yeah, that's a good saying. I get that. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be okay. But then I started thinking about it. It was like, all right, but then what?
Yeah.
But then what? It's okay to be in a struggle in a relationship. It's okay to feel down about yourself. Those things are okay. Okay, but then what? And so I started thinking about it, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to add something onto this. It's okay to not be okay. It's just not okay to stay there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You have to start working through it. Process the emotion, process the feeling, process the fight, process the argument, process all those things. It's okay to have those thoughts. It's okay to, I would even say, and I've said this before, it's even go far to say is, if you're having suicidal ideations and you're depressed, it's okay. Those are normal thoughts for people with depression. They happen. They're human. What we need to remember, though, is that it's not okay to stay with those thoughts. It's not okay to stay with that depression. You have to start working through it. Process them, feel them, then go through. Problems in relationship. Process it, feel it, start working through it. So yes, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. Well, you have to start moving through.
You can parallel it to any rehab program. The very first step is always to admit that there's a problem. That's what it's okay not to be okay. Now admit what the problem is and start addressing it and working on it. And it's an odd parallel to make, but it's basically rehab for emotions. Okay. It's okay. Saying it's okay not to be okay. That's like checking yourself into rehab. Now you need to go ahead and admit what the actual problem is, why you're not okay. And then you need to start figuring out how to address it and deal with it.
Right. Exactly. Man, I want to say thank you. I'm not going to keep you on too much longer. We've been going on for almost a little over 2 hours. By the time I edit all this down, it'll probably be about 2 hours. But I want to say thank you for taking the time to come onto the show, man, and giving us a background as to who you are, where you came from, what your life was like growing up, the struggles that you guys are going through now, the struggles that have been through, giving us a history lesson on a part of who we are as a country and how we sustain ourselves that not a lot of us are familiar with. Like you said, 30,000 farmers. That's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket to 386 million people. Right? It's not many. So the fact that you took the time to let us know, obviously any one of your family, I say family, but your followers on your social media, they're obviously learning from you on a day-to-day basis. And that's huge. But I want to say thank you for coming on to my show here on What Makes Us Fire and talking about it and being open about it and sharing the struggles, because even though you're not a civil service member, even though, you're not a military member, you're whatever, you're a human being. And before any of us, before I was a firefighter, I was just a kid. I was just a human being. Before a police officer was a police officer, before a military member was just a military member, they were just a human being. And the way I like to say it is, we're normal people that do abnormal jobs. You're a normal guy doing an abnormal thing, a very abnormal thing. I would even say there's absolutely less farmers in America than there are civil service members. Right? Like you are definitely a normal person doing an extremely abnormal job. Like
I think there's probably more firefighters in the state of New York than there are dairy farmers in America. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. and that's insane to think about. But the point is that we're human. Right? And we go through struggles, we go through life, and it doesn't matter what we do as a profession. When struggle happens, it affects us. And I'm sorry I keep boring you, man.
You're not.
I know it's getting late. I do want to say thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story, man, and giving us your perspective and giving us your thoughts on basically everything we talked about. I'm going to start winding it down, but first I want to give you a chance here to kind of plug what you got going on with the subscription. How can we help you and the farm? Where can the What Makes Us Fire family and listeners follow you on? And kind of, this is your chance to promote the hell out of yourself. Content violation. You can promote Wood Talk. Wood Talk. Whatever you want, man. Just, this is your chance.
So, the farm thing that we've kind of tapped it around a little bit, talked about Miss Art Grammy on TikTok, Wilma. She actually came by the farm last week, and it was so good to meet her. She wanted to help, and she was from out of state. She was from down in Arkansas. and really wanted to help in some way. And so she came up with the milk donation program, which has actually been sitting there on the website for a couple of months. And I just hadn't really figured out what to do with it. You know what I mean? I knew it was there. I mean, when people were asking me, I was telling them about it, but I hadn't really figured out a way to channel basically traffic to it. And it kind of accidentally got itself spurred off this past week. In 1 week, we had 30,000 gallons of milk donated to us. It was the amount equivalent to 2,500 milk subscriptions. But the program does is if you're out of state, you want to support us and help us kind of get through our little the struggle of any small business trying to survive COVID. You can purchase a gallon of milk. It'll go to a family in need. It provides them with nutrition, provides the creamery on our farm with business. Like I said earlier, in turn, that provides local people and community jobs. The creamery purchases the milk from the farm. It pays us a better price than anybody else does. So it's better income for the farm. Plus, we also employ people on the farm. So it's really community taking care of community. The difference here is that I've been so blessed to have my community grow to around the world through social media. And so people from all over the world are participating in buying milk donations. Just a little part to make the world a better place, I guess.
Where can they go to get to this subscription?
You can go to richlandscreamery.com, and if you hit the shop online button, all you gotta do is scroll down to it, and it'll say donate whole gallon or donate whole gallon subscription. The subscription lasts 12 weeks. It's 12 gallons. But we are thinking about, based on demand, adding a pretty much open-ended subscription, kind of like, Amazon or Netflix or whatever. It's yours until you cancel it, because there's been people interested in doing it that way. And if you totally just can't figure it out, which I know some people can't, or they maybe don't have internet access or whatever it is, there is a Venmo set up in my TikTok bio, and anything that goes into that Venmo goes to milk donations. So that's where all of that'll go to. If you want to follow me on the social media, I am TR_Jones7, because I was not original with my username, and now know me that way to change it. So
no, you can't change it now, man. You can't change it now.
If I'd been original in the beginning, it would have been like Rid TR or something like that, but I wasn't.
Well, TR, you were trying to make friends, and if you were trying to make friends with Red being part of that, they'd be like, well, he already has a friend, but we'll just go ahead and let him continue to talk to cows.
Absolutely. But yeah, the other things we got going on, we're doing a weekend music festival, Labor Day weekend, Wood Talk. All the information there is available at woodtalk.com. The idea behind that was to basically, I have enjoyed my time on TikTok and the way I've gotten to meet people and make friends, and I wanted to do that for anybody that wanted to. So you can buy a ticket, you can come out and hang out with a lot of people on TikTok. Going to be there. What Makes Us Fire has not decided if he's coming yet or not.
I'm coming. I told you I was going to be there. I just need to figure out exactly how the hell I'm going to get there. Dude, word of advice, TR. Don't go through divorce. Don't do it.
Going back to my own relationship for just a second, I am one of those extraordinarily lucky people, and I think this is true for everybody. I think there is one unequivocal match for everybody in the world, and I'm just one of those extraordinarily lucky people that did manage to find mine. You know what I mean? And
I got you.
I would chase her across any lifetime in any area just to be with her again and do it all again. So I got lucky in that sense.
That sounds creepy. That sounds creepy a little bit, but nah, man, like I said before, you don't learn to become a millionaire by listening to somebody that's only making $100,000, and you don't learn how to make a relationship work from somebody that hasn't, and you guys have, and we really do appreciate what you guys share. So woodtalk.com. What is this benefiting, if you don't mind me asking?
So we really didn't know when we started out. We just kind of wanted to do it, and we knew it would cost money to do it, so we sold tickets to it. And then as time went on, and the last thing I didn't get to in the struggles facing the farm was this year's big struggle has been this commodity boom, commodity hike, where all the inputs we're buying to the farm to feed cows have gone up so much. And fuel is up and fertilizer is up. And coincidentally, the only thing that is not going up is milk. And so we faced substantial loss on the farm this year, just purely economically speaking. I think that's kind of speaking about that is kind of what kicked off the milk donation drive, which has been just amazing. But that's kind of where we ended with Wood Talk. We're basically our own charity case at this point. Just trying to want to create an event for people to come out and have a good time and really get to meet and support those people that they've been following on TikTok over the last year. But at the same time, the way farming sits in America, you have to become incredibly innovative and really branch out into things you never thought you would do. There's a saying that I don't live by it at all, but I've heard it a lot over the last year. If it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. Now, farming in itself doesn't make a whole lot of money, so it probably doesn't make any sense. But things like milk donation programs and Wood Talk, these are incredibly different things from what anybody else are doing, but they make some money for a business that doesn't really make any money. And so they make sense to do them. So what it's benefiting is it's benefiting the farm here and the family here, and then it's also benefiting the performers that come and perform because they're being paid to perform, and then all the expenses associated with hosting the weekend music festival. But yeah, but also we are working with as far as like EMT care, medical care, first responders all around the local community. So this is your civil servants. And basically in return for them coming out and spending their time here, we're basically pledging big donations to departments. So trying to give back locally too and make sure that, good fortunes pass along so that the community around us continues to be taken care of, and that vital services such as most of the fire departments out here volunteer for us. And so
right.
Depend on donation. So vital services like that. And then, even the town police departments, the county departments, they're always basically understaffed and under budgeted, and they rely on donations when you get out here to rural country areas too. So wanted to get back to them and make sure the community has, the things it needs to be set up to do well.
Man, that's amazing that you guys have turned this event into something so much bigger than what you thought. And I will be there. I know it's the beginning of September. I already know. Mid-September, sorry.
It's first weekend in September.
First weekend in September.
Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend. Okay.
2nd through the 6th.
2nd through the 6th.
Yeah.
Okay. I will be there.
All right.
I don't know how I'm going to be there, but I will be there.
Then you can probably catch, who was it you were telling me you haven't caught for the podcast yet?
Fucking Kingry.
Well, Kingry's going to be here, so you can actually corner him and be like, you're sitting down, we're doing the podcast.
No shit. I've been asking him just as long as I've been asking you. Jeez. And you know what? The real messed up thing is he's actually contacted me a few times. Hey, man, let's lock down a date. I'd send him a couple dates. Ghosted.
He got a lot going on too.
Yeah, no, he does. What you guys have all done and what you guys got going on with your content violation, which, by the way, I'm going to let you plug here in a second, and what you guys are building with all that is pretty damn huge. And you're right. You have created something that has taken you into these realms of life and everything else that are
places I never thought I would be.
Right. Who would have thunk it? And for me and what I'm doing, I'm the same way. I started this podcast in August of last year. I started my nonprofit, and it's gotten me in contact with some amazing people. I just had, the band Trapped. I don't know if you listen to that kind of music. Headstrong, I'll take you on. You know that song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you're
So
talking
the lead singer of Trapped was on my podcast
That's awesome.
just a couple weeks ago. And now I'm working with him on releasing his new song. I'm working with him on an app that he's working on. And like it's got me with all these connections. Jason Patton, who's dogged Kingery on a few times on TikTok where they've gone back and forth making fun of each other. He's really big in the fire department. Yeah, he's a bald guy. Firefighter makes a lot of funny videos.
Chronicles.
Yep, Fire Department Chronicles. Yes, he was on the show, and you know he's kind of a staple within the civil service from on the fire department side. But I've gotten to work with a lot of really good people. We actually have our own meetup coming up in October. The What Makes Us Fire TikTok Riverwalk Takeover in San Antonio, Texas. We're going to take over the San Antonio Riverwalk. If you're not familiar with it, it's a river that runs through downtown San Antonio. It's lined with bars and restaurants and places to hang out. And it's going to be a fundraiser for us and a meetup, which I talked to you about very shortly, which I would love for you guys to take the time to come out here. I know you're going to be, oh God, what happened?
I just got a cramp.
Oh.
Charlie horse. I pulled my leg back under my chair, and man, it bit me. That's a funny face to make it a podcast.
The look on your face, man. What the hell was happening?
Oh man, I'm trying to stretch it back out. All right, keep going. I'm listening.
No, dude, I'm gonna open up the pod. I'm gonna edit this part out, and literally the beginning's just gonna be your face going. Ah!
Oh man, it's not going away either.
Oh no,
it's there.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is life. This is what happens. The unexpected.
This is life after 35.
No shit, man. So I was born in 85 too. I was born in June of 85. So I just turned 36. So me and you are the same age, just about. Dude.
It's just not going away. Oh man. It went away for a second, but now it is back.
Grab a pickle or a banana or something.
Yeah, chug up this water over here. All right. San Antonio Riverwalk. You got to talk, man. You got to keep going.
Yeah, we got to keep going. I know. It's getting late for you. But yeah, I'm inviting. Jesus Christ. It's really hard to talk to you while you're doing that.
I don't know what to do. It just won't go away.
Try rubbing on it or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I can only imagine a 6 foot tall man rubbing the back of his leg. Like at first it looked like something bit your ass. I was like, what the hell just happened?
Hydrate.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. You good?
No. I mean, I can feel it. It is just balled up and it will not go away. And this is like nothing you want on the podcast at all.
Oh no, this is everything I want on the podcast. This is fucking great. You do know there is a YouTube version of this, by the way.
Oh, that's awesome. I went to a Lamaze class with my wife, and you know, I paid attention and I made sure I understood the breathing exercises. Yeah, they're coming in handy now, so I'm so glad that I went and did that.
Oh yeah.
All right. I think we're settling in finally.
Okay.
But I'm like terrified to put my foot back on the ground.
Yeah, don't do that. Okay, we'll hurry this up so you know you can go.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
San Antonio Riverwalk.
Yeah, the San Antonio Riverwalk. It's a huge thing for us to try to raise some money. We're a brand new nonprofit. We just started in January, and you know, I told you a little bit about it. We help our civil service members get inpatient mental health treatment, so be it military or first responder. And the way we do that is we make sure finances are not a deciding factor on whether or not they go and get that help. And the reason why I decided to do this nonprofit and go this route is because finances were a deciding factor for me.
Right.
You know, I am battling depression right now. I am battling anxiety and PTSD as well as being diagnosed with ADHD, because who does not like to hyper focus on their depression than somebody with ADHD? So, but I had to make that decision of not going to get that treatment, and it was a defeating blow. It did not feel good. And if I had to go through something like that, I'm sure there's somebody else out there that had to as well. There is no nonprofit out there that is willing to pay for you to go anywhere you want to go and take care of your family while doing so, in that you're not going to have to worry about not being able to go to work while you're dedicated to that facility. We're going to take care of your family. We'll take care of your mortgage. We'll take care of your bills, take care of the groceries, whatever it is that your family needs while you're taking care of yourself, they will be taken care of. And so we decided to do this meetup, and, you know, we're starting to get some people to come. I'm extending the invitation to you, obviously, TR. It's October 15th through the 17th. So it's about a month and a half.
Aren't you glad I have my pencil now?
I am glad you have your pencil now. October 15th through the 17th.
All right.
You know, you can get your lanyards now. You go to WhatMakesUsFire.com, click on the events tab. It's the first event you'll see. It has its own webpage. You know, we're putting up the itinerary as we're getting confirmation from the establishments that are going to help us out. So October 15th is going to be, we're going to have like 6 or 7 establishments that are going to be opened up to the participants. So you're either going to get free entry, you're going to get discounted drinks, discounted food, special menu, and any and all that is ordered from that's going to go and help the nonprofit. And then October 16th, we are doing a costume party / masquerade party. And we're going to have best dress. We're going to have raffles, auction, dancing, drinking, just a good night for everybody to hang out and have a good time. And then October 17th, we're all going to meet up in front of the Alamo, take a really large group picture, and reveal how much was raised for the nonprofit. Awesome. And then we're going to get to say our goodbyes, and I hope I don't see yous again, stuff like that. So it's going to be a fun time, and I would love for you guys to come out. You know, I talked to John Collins for a minute. He was interested in it. He wanted to know what days it were. You know, I'm throwing names out there because, you know, why not?
Yeah.
But I would love for you to think about it, man. And even if you couldn't go, just throwing some support out there. Maybe
plug it for you.
There you go. Yeah, plug it. Even if you can't go, plug it. But it would be great to have you out there. It'd be great to meet you in person. You know, I can't believe you guys had Salty Ralty come to a meetup for a ride along. I mean, I love the guy. You know, he's another firefighter, but when he went live with everybody there, I felt bad for him. He was like in the corner. All the cops were having fun. Everybody else was talking. This little firefighter just kind of recording everything.
I sat in the corner and talked to him.
Oh, well, because you felt bad for him. I get it. No. He's a great guy. He's a great guy. I love him to death. But yeah, man. And that's what we got going on. So, where we go from here and where we're going to push this conversation forward is you have TR_Jones_7 on his TikTok social media. That's going to be the one to follow. Yeah.
I think I'm TR_Jones7. What am I?
Dude, I don't, God dang it. How do you not know your own TikTok handle?
Hold on a second.
I'm looking. Hold on.
I'm TR_Jones7. Yeah, I told you.
Yeah, you are TR_Jones7. I put the underscore in the wrong spot. My bad.
You had me confused though.
Yeah, well, you know, the fact that you couldn't correct me right off the bat. I mean, write it down.
You said I was modest about my TikTok.
Yeah, you are. You are.
It's not something I give out a lot.
TR_Jones7 on his TikTok. Go check him out if you like what he's got.
Too.
Huh?
I'm on Instagram now too.
Oh, you're on Instagram now as well?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So many people ask me to start Instagram. My favorite thing about Instagram is the 4-person lives.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's a little bit hectic for me because I like to talk. And if somebody else is talking, like I've done with you several times, I'll interrupt. I don't mean to be rude, but you know, it is what it is.
It's your show.
Well, it's Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's my show.
You gotta keep it going in the direction you want it going in.
Yeah. So yeah, the way I end my shows, man, is I usually ask about 3 questions. And,
all right. Lightning round.
It could be either lightning round, it could spark another 5-10 minute conversation. No right or wrong answers. But my first question to you, brother, is this. TR Jones has a podcast of his own. We'll call it Red and TR. We'll say you guys are the hosts. I like it. But your guest is yourself, TR. Okay. What's the one question you would have asked yourself and or piece of information you would have liked to share that maybe we didn't get to hit on?
One question I would ask myself, something I think you should know.
Or a piece of information, that we didn't hit on.
Man, that's such a good question. It's gonna send me into like a 5-minute pondering here.
Oh God. You and everybody else that asked that question. I might have to at least send that question out to future guests, because every time I ask that, they're like,
yeah. It's such a heavy question.
It is a good question. I mean, but it's a
legitimate question. That's what makes it good.
Like, did you have an idea of something that you wanted to talk about when you came on here that maybe we didn't hit on?
No, like I said, if this had been the very first podcast I ever did, like the very first one I ever did, I wasn't really sure how it was going to go. But I have done enough now that I'm comfortable with the format that, you really follow the host, where in the conversation, and then you got, like you did a great job of channeling it in the direction, you want me to talk about, but also at the same time, giving me plenty of time to talk. Thing I would have asked me that I would have wanted people to know about information, I would have asked me, so this is a conversation I have with people sometimes. It's basically what keeps you grounded. What is your anchor? I call it an anchor. What keeps you rooted in life that you can remain who you are despite the way the world changes, even though at the same time, life is such an interesting concept because you have to be able to adapt to new things. But at the same time, you need to also be true to who you are, be true to yourself. So
you have to have a good foundation that you can build upon.
That's what I kind of call it an anchor. And I encourage people to have a good anchor in life. A point that you can always get back to if you start to lose who you are. Mm-hmm. My anchor, I also encourage people not to let it be a person, because as we all know, people can come and go.
People are fleeting.
People can pass away.
Human beings are fleeting.
So, yes. And they pass away. Even the best people pass away. And so if you've anchored your life to another person, you have the opportunity to lose that sense of self. And your sense of self should always revolve around you somehow. To give an example for me, my anchor is actually a point in my life that we talked about a little bit tonight. So I gave you that rundown on that year that I did not go to school. I took that year from
right after your surgery and your injury. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was actually a moment in that summer that if I start to lose a sense of who I am, I go back to that moment. And then I think my life back forward to where I sit now, and I try to cut out anything along the way that I think that is not actually who I am, or that is not actually the path I want to be on, until I get my sense of self back balanced. And interesting enough, if you want to know what my particular anchor is, it is a feeling of value, because there was a time in my life where I didn't feel that I had great value. So I had this thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to play football, and I couldn't anymore. And I didn't understand what value I had. Where was I supposed to go? Why wasn't my dream good enough to come true? That kind of sense of loss. And I was actually kind of aunt of mine. I was going through my own depression. This aunt asked me if I wanted to be the game instructor at Vacation Bible School. And of course, at the time, I've got this huge knee brace on. It's still not really very mobile, and just I thought it was like the worst idea ever. And she really talked me into it and said, no, she said basically it would just be good for you to get back out and stand up and play. And I mean, of course, Vacation Bible School, I was a 19-year-old kid. The kids ranged in age from 5 to 10. And, so it was really, and I do some videos about this on TikTok, kids just understanding the meaning of life so much better than we do as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And we're playing on the first day. I still have physical limitations, so it's like I can't just run around with them and play with them. So we start playing this game with the kids. Simon Says, and I've got them, if you got on a pink shirt, take a step forward or do a hop or whatever. And we're hopping along, having a good time. And the kids are giggling, having fun. And I noticed there's this little tiny girl in the back of the crowd, and she's just one of these really meek children, head down, kind of trying not to be noticed. Hadn't made a friend yet. And I can see that she's just not really into the whole experience yet. You know what I mean? And so I start picking out things, of course, that she has on, or, what color shoes on. I start making sure she's hopping towards the front, getting up here and getting into the game. And, she just happened to be directly, like, straight down the field from me. And so I popped all the kids. And now that I've got them all pretty close to me, I actually kind of hop them into an even line. And so, and then in the end, the last thing I'm going to say is if you're having a good time, everybody take a hop. And so that's what they do. The kids hop. And this particular girl, she was about 5 or 6 years old. And when she went to take that hop, she was only a foot or two from me. And instead of just hopping and kind of stopping on the ground, she actually jumped and fully committed to the fact that I was going to catch her. Like whether I wanted to or not, you know what I mean? and so the reaction kicked in to catch, because it's a child, I don't want the child to bust her face on the ground. So I caught her, and whatever divine intervention or whatever happened, in that moment, that child who had been so meek and so, nervous about being there, took that leap. And in that moment, she let out this little giggle, laughter. She was so excited. And so I kind of picked her up, gave her a little spin, set her back on the ground, and she runs off and starts making friends with other kids. But that was the first time in months after I'd had that surgery that I felt like I had some form of value again. You know what I mean? That there was more to life than the things that I wasn't missing. There was this value in, I may be sitting here with my own problems, but somebody else still thought that they could depend on me to catch them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I have value as I go through this life, that somebody might need me to pick them up, and I might need somebody to pick me up. And so
purpose.
That's kind of like, always,
you found
that's kind of
purpose.
always been a point where if I ever get to what's the point, I can go back to that moment and say to myself, sometimes the point is for me to lift someone else up, and sometimes the point is for someone else to lift me up. So that's what I anchor a lot of my life in,
Isn't it a cool story that you told that without even knowing it, you kind of lifted each other up?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You did something for her, and unknowing to her, she did something for you.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy how that works, right? How when we find purpose within ourselves for something bigger than us, those things that make a difference tend to give us, we're helping others, and then the fact that we're helping others helps us with our sense of purpose, with our sense of self-worth. And
that's no different than the nonprofit you're starting. You're experiencing PTSD, depression yourself, but the sense of helping others has such a reward in its own self that it can actually pull you out of your own struggles.
And I've definitely learned that. I've learned that, sharing my story and what I'm going through and how I'm dealing with it. And if you've seen any of my content, you'll see me happy. You'll see me dancing. You'll see me being goofy. But a lot of, there's other times where you're going to see me sad. You're going to see me crying. You're going to see me upset. You're going to see me angry. And the whole idea is, if somebody else can see me express those things that I had to actually fight myself to show, I had to, do I really want to post this? And I did. The fact that me doing that has helped other people, it is definitely giving me a sense of purpose. And what I'm trying to start here and helping, other brothers and sisters, I have my reasons and I have my the things that push me to do it.
Yes.
I'd be lying if I said if a little bit wasn't for me as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, and that's okay.
That's okay.
Man, that's actually a really good piece of advice, and that's a really good question that you asked yourself, and I wish I should have thought of it.
Well, now you can ask it to other people.
Yeah, now I can ask it to other people, and I really do. I do, believe it or not. I'll go back, and as I edit, I write down notes and stuff, just like you, of the conversations we've had. My second question, TR, is very simple. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, I already asked you if you were coming to Wood Talk, so I got to come up with another one. What's a little thing you use to get through every day? Do you have any kind of recurring thing you tell yourself, or is it a song that you listen to? Like I feel like a lot of people have that kind of one little thing that can help them get through a day.
Man, I've never been asked that. I've never been asked that. Right off the bat, as soon as you ask that, my head tells me most people would probably answer their family, their kids, thinking about them, or like you said, a song. You just want to listen to a song to kind of lift your spirits. But for me, as of late, I can't say always, but as of late, going through my therapy, my psychiatric treatment, stuff like that, I've learned to tell myself the thing that gets me through the day is when I start feeling overwhelmed or tired, or I don't even know, whatever emotion that can bring a person down. I've created, I guess, a mantra, so to speak, of continuously telling myself I'm worth it for me.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds dumb.
I don't think it does.
It's not like it's not a song. It's not it's not my kids. And I guess that goes to what you said earlier, finding your anchor shouldn't be a person. I don't even want my anchor to be my kids because, how am I supposed to be good with myself when I put my self-worth in other people?
That's right.
You got to be good for yourself first. And so
the only person that you have to go to sleep with every night is your own damn self.
That's exactly right. And are
you allowed to say that on the podcast? I'm sorry. I use a curse word on your podcast.
Yeah. TR. You said damn. Really?
I did. You never know. This could be one of those good Christian podcasts.
It is not. Have you not heard the words I've been using to talk to you, bro?
I'm just kidding. Keep going.
Yeah, I noticed you haven't used the language I've used, and I feel like a potty mouth just talking to you.
No, you're fine. When I'm doing stuff like this, I try to keep it as as PG as possible. If you came out and worked with me on the farm and you hear me bust my knuckle with a wrench, you'll get the whole dictionary thrown in. It's a bad situation.
Well, this podcast is going out there 18 and up. Everything, okay. Yeah. All the check boxes are for 18 and up. So don't worry about any of that. But no, for me, man, it's having to remind myself that I'm worth it for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I'm worth it for me.
No, that's a good one. That's a good answer.
But yeah, that's what it is. That, and I can't give up on myself, because that means I'd be giving up on the people I'm trying to help.
Yep.
And I don't do that.
Yep.
That's not in me. When I say I'm going to help someone, I'll do everything in my power, whether it kills me or not, to help that person I gave my word to. So if this thing puts me in my grave from the stress, then so be it. But I'm going to make sure I work my ass off to make it happen.
Absolutely.
My last question to you, TR, is, thank you for the question, by the way. My last question to you, brother, is you're on the What Makes Us Fire podcast. You know, a lot of people hear that and they think, oh, we're hearing about civil service members, we're hearing about firefighters. But, and you know, of course, the logo is the Maltese Cross fire logo and everything else. And so I guess I didn't do a good job with marketing on that aspect. But really, what makes us fire means what makes you continue to be you. What gives you the strength, or what do you think it is that gives anybody the strength to continue doing and to sacrifice of themselves for others? Because whether you think so or not, what you do as a livelihood, what you're doing on social media, you are, in a sense, a civil service member, in that you are sacrificing a lot of yourself to provide for those that aren't even close to you. You're providing a civil service for people. So what do you think it is? What is it, that fire inside of you that keeps, what is it that keeps that fire burning?
These are good questions. These are deep thought questions here at the end of the program. I thought it was going to be like, what's your favorite food? You know, I was
No.
Questions. What drives me? What's the fire? Being honest here, it's not a whole lot different from your own answer. I think it's just being able to look at myself in the mirror and be okay with what I see. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you know, without question, do I love my wife? Do I love my children? Am I motivated to do some things and care for them? Absolutely, positively. But I'm always the very last person in my house to go to bed. Just am. I've always kind of been a stay up a little later than everyone. And that's the time that I have to sit with myself. And if I can't stand to sit with myself, then that means there's a problem and I need to address it and I need to fix it. I think that's it, being able to just look myself in the mirror and have a sense that I am doing everything I can to make, you know, my everyone in my household feel loved, to continue to provide for them, to, you know, try to make things on the farm work and try to make things with the creamery work, to go out with the content violation group on the weekends, to, you know, providing anything I can to, whether it's a laugh for the day or a little piece of advice that helps someone get through the day or maybe improves their relationship. Am I doing everything I can to make the world a little bit better today than it was yesterday? Or am I being a negative impact on the world around me? And I just am the kind of person that wants to go to bed every night thinking I had some piece of value in myself today because I did something that made the world just a little bit better instead of making it a little bit worse. You know, I think if everybody went to bed that way and we kind of treated each other that way, for me, it maybe that stems a little bit from, we're talking about police here, stems back to me. The entire point of the Bible for me, the biggest thing I got out of it, the biggest thing I continue to get out of it is, you know, to treat others the way you want to be treated. And so if the world revolved around that one principle and we all tried to leave it as just a little bit better place every night before we went to bed, we would get over a lot of our problems really fast.
I agree with you on that. You bring up that verse there in the Bible. I think there's a little bit of a second part that we also have to remember here. We treat others the way we want to be treated, but don't expect to be treated the way you treat others.
Yeah.
Because if you are treating others the way you want to be treated for the sole purpose of being treated that way in return, I truly think you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Just doing things for the right reason, empathy, kindness, and not seeking anything out of it.
Exactly.
You know, it doesn't take me any more energy to be kind to someone than it does to
be just kind of off the cuff mean to someone, but one leaves you with the right feeling, one leaves you with the wrong feeling, and one leaves that person with the right feeling, wrong feeling. It's a gift that you inadvertently give yourself. It's peace of mind. You continue to do the right thing, treat people the right way, you inadvertently give yourself peace of mind. And that's a good way to live.
Man, 100%. Well, TR, brother, that's it. Those were my 3 questions, man. You passed flying colors. I'll give you an A+.
Gold star. I like
Gold star. Man, thank you again for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for taking us through your childhood, explaining to us what it is that you and your community within the farming industry are going through, giving us a little bit of a backstory and how all that looks. Thank you for talking to us about the mental health aspect of it all, how you've dealt with it, the things you did in researching, and the moves you're trying to make to bring more awareness to that all. I think is huge. And I hope that, if I can help in any way, shape, or form to get that message out to help you and the community, and you have my support 110%. For everybody out there, make sure Wood Talk, TR_Jones7, check out what he's got going on. Check out Richland Dairy Farms.com.
RichlandsCreamery.com.
RichlandsCreamery.com. Check out that subscription. Any subscription that you purchase does go to a family in need, goes to a food bank, which is huge, huge. It also helps his community and his farm stay afloat, getting through all this COVID shit and crap. Let's help the people that we don't see. Let's help the people that are providing for us in a way that we don't truly understand, and sacrificing for us in a way that we take for granted. Really just call it what it is. We take it for granted. So let's show some support to him. Check out Content Violation. If you guys don't know what that is, they are a little bit of a comedy crew, bunch of crazy ass guys having a good time, making people laugh, but all with well-intended, good hearts, good gentlemen, good guys, God-fearing men that have found a way to bring some light and joy to people's life by creating this comedy crew that they got going on, which, by the way, is a little funny. I hate to say that a little bit because a lot of it are cops. A lot of them are cops, and I hate to give them that recognition, but they are. TR is a part of that. Go check them out, y'all. TR, brother, you got anything else you'd like to say right before we sign off?
I just appreciate you having me on the show and taking the time to talk to me. It's been, I'm one of those kind of people that I'd rather sit at a campfire with 3 people and have a conversation that I can understand than go sit in the bar and have, talk to 40 people that I can't hear. And I always enjoy a good sit down with a good conversation. This is definitely been a good one.
I appreciate that, brother. What Makes Us Fire, family? Y'all have fun. Stay safe. Remember to show some love and peace out in the world. You never know who's going to need it. You never know if you're going to be the one to make the difference, and making that difference, like TR and I have said before, it does feel pretty damn good. Be the change you want to see in the world. Don't let the world dictate how you want to see that change happen. Be better. And remember, everything in life worth having is not easy. Keep going. It's worth it in you. Much love, y'all. Peace. You want to say bye, TR?
Oh, bye. I thought it was over. I didn't want to think you had such a good ending.
All right. What did I tell you? TR Jones, ladies and gentlemen. TR, thank you again for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for everything that you have done for the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit, and for coming on the show again. Everybody, let's show TR Jones some support. Let's show him that we understand that he's going through some struggles and that we can help. That we understand struggle, and because we understand struggle, he's not alone. Him and his family are not alone. It's that time of the show where I say thank you for following. Thank you for listening. I know it was a long episode, but you stuck it all the way through, and I greatly appreciate it. Please follow us
What Makes Us Fire on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. Not WhatsApp. I don't have that one yet. What's the other one? House Party. Yeah, all with the tag at What Makes Us Fire. That's it. You put that in any of your social media sites, you can definitely find us. You'll see the logo and everything else. Also, if you want to check out a little bit of what the nonprofit is about, visit whatmakesusfire.com. There you can also check out the podcast. You can check out events that we have coming up. Speaking of which, October 15th through the 17th in San Antonio, Texas, we are doing a meetup. Visit whatmakesusfire.com, click on the events tab, go to the TikTok takeover, and get your lanyard, book your hotel. I cannot wait to see you all there. All proceeds are going to help the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit, and we are looking forward to all of you being. If you want to reach out to me and you want to ask me a question, you want to say hi, you can email me at whatmakesusfire@yahoo.com. I will get to your email as soon as possible. Just give me a little bit of time. You are finding yourself in a crisis right now, and you need somebody to talk to. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 100% free, anonymous, and confidential. Start the conversation. The number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, the number is 1-800-273-8255. If making that phone call is just not in your wheelhouse right now, that's okay. Check out suicidepreventionlifeline.org, where you will find a multitude of resources to help you start that conversation for you. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline and suicidepreventionlifeline.org are in no way, shape, or form supporters of the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit or the podcast. These are just two resources that us here at What Makes Us Fire strongly believe in. Thank you, every one of you. You know, life's not easy. The things in life worth having are not easy. But if you just keep going, the thing that is worth having, it'll be there. Stay safe, everyone. Much love. Peace.